their battle done, the wildlands now renewed. Through storm and fire, their hearts inspire a hope so long pursued. The world breaker falls as freedom calls, the land breathes life again. The heroes stand, a steadfast band, their legend will remain. Rise, oh rise, adventurers brave, let songs of peace resound. Alric's might, blood mains fight, in victory they're crowned. Winnie's charm, Gartok's bow arm, their bond a force profound. The wildlands sing, their praises ring, salvation now unbound. Beneath the sun, their battle done, the wildlands now renewed. Through storm and fire, their hearts inspire a hope so long pursued. The world breaker falls as freedom calls, the land breathes life again. The heroes stand, a steadfast band, their legend will remain. Rise, oh rise, adventurers brave, let songs of peace resound. Alric's might, blood mains fight, in victory they're crowned. Winnie's charm, Gartok's bow arm, their bond a force profound. The wildlands sing, their praises ring, salvation now unbound. The wildlands sing, their praises ring, salvation now unbound.
The realm of the wildlands, 'neath the sky's vast expanse, a tale of old, of shadows bold, begins with sword and lance. The Imperium's grip, once iron tight, has vanished from the land. Their absence brought by heroes' thought, a new threat close at hand. Rise, oh rise, adventurers brave, through forest, hill and fen. Alric's might, blood mains fight, and silver spotlight there. Together they defend the wildlands, call to one and all to bring peace back again. The world breaker wakes, the slumber shakes. 2,000 years combine, its compass green, a vengeful deed leaves naught but ash behind. With every town they tear it down, their warpath ever wends. Dead arise, 'neath chaotic skies, their march it never ends. Rise, oh rise, adventurers brave, through forest, hill and fen. Alric's might, blood mains fight, and silver spotlight there. Winnie's charm, God's fall, together
right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We don't really have anybody hanging out in chat, but I'm sure this VOD will be watched at least once or twice. So, thank you for joining us if you are here or watching this after the fact. Today we are celebrating and mourning and indulging in the final session of the Wildlands campaign, which was started many years ago, back in 2020, I believe. We'll go through that a little bit later, the fine details. But we are finishing this campaign today. This is session number 78. We're going to be doing epilogue content and Q&A afterwards. We may not take an entire 4 hours if the entire 4 hours is not needed for that to happen, but we'll kind of see where it goes as we progress throughout the session. And yeah, thanks for joining us, and hopefully this wraps things up and ties up loose ends for everybody before we put the campaign to bed. So let me go ahead and jump over to my wonderful players and get them situated. All right, guys. Good morning. Right, so this is it. This is our final session. This is session number the quacking. Yeah, so Candace made this dice bag for Cayman, and it's pretty fucking badass.
It turned out pretty.
Yes, I saw an image that says very cool.
So this is session number 78, you guys. This is going to be our very last session. This is going to be our epilogue content and Q&A afterwards. We may not need the entire 4 hours, but, you know, I'm not going to rush anything. We'll let it naturally peter out, and we'll kind of just go from there. So if we wind up ending early, I'm not going to be too concerned about it. Obviously, I don't want to have to sit with dead air for too long. But, you know, I know you guys, and I know RP stuff, so it might take longer than that. We'll see. Anyways, right, so let me go ahead and dive into the session recap from last time. So session 77 was March 2025, Part 2. The group continued to clash with the World Breaker while our teen pushed her ritual to the max. During the fight, the group stood and dropped over and over. Bloodmane, Sybil, and Falazur were all consumed by the World Breaker, but managed to escape the bowels of the beast before they were fully digested. Overall, the group, for the first time in a long time, came together and worked so harmoniously that the World Breaker seemed but a pawn in the grand scheme of the cosmos. Perhaps it was. Once the beast was slain, the group planted the 4 binding crystals around it and awaited the completion of Artene's ritual. When it happened, massive golden chains bound the body of the beast, and in a flash of brilliant light, the ground split open and it was yanked down to the center of the prime material, where it was locked away for the remainder of eternity. The group had succeeded without any major losses. The World Breaker is vanquished, and the Wildlands can begin mending its wounds. For whatever it's worth, there was a level up. Happy milestone. You can go into retirement at level 20, Ulrich, and level 19 for everybody else. And today we pick up April 2025. It will be our only session this month, and we are calling it the finale/epilogue. So, those notes have already been written. That's stuff that we'll cover here in a minute. For what it's worth to anybody, today is Wednesday, the 12th of Ogtet at 4 p.m. Prime time to save the world, baby. Yeah, I don't really have anything else. No notes. I'm not taking any questions, comments, or concerns, as those are moot at this point. So let me go ahead and set the scene quickly. Just to be clear, the intention is we will roleplay the immediate aftermath of this conflict, and then we will break into epilogue content, which is obviously post-campaign epilogue content that will not be role played out, that will be more monologued. And then after that, we will put the campaign to rest, and I'll open the doors for any questions you guys might have. If you don't have any questions, or when the questions run out, we'll go ahead and call it. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and kick on some tunes for the time being. I love this Druid's Grove, music, so we'll go ahead and play that as we pick up here. So, what has just happened? The World Breaker has just been bound by the golden chains of the binding ritual that Artine had performed. The ground split open and pulled the body of the World Breaker into the center of the prime material. The ground sealed up behind it, and the symbol of Erethnal that was in the sky, that was kind of pulsing over not only the battlefield before this fight, but during this fight as well, faded, kind of turned to smoke and receded into the sky and vanished. And we will pick up with you guys finding yourselves here. Just for a general note, Winnie is horrifically wounded right now. Like, split open, bones obviously broken, parts of her have been melted off. Falazure, although he's a tough cookie, he is also horrifically wounded. Mama Mundi is gravely wounded. Healing at this point is moot, I guess, but I'm just kind of pointing out that you do still have some people who are pretty fucked up. So, we'll go ahead and pick up there. You guys have just watched the ground seal shut, the last of Artine's magic shudders as her fist kind of comes inwards, and she, visibly sweating under this this celestial glow, her hand comes to a rest, and the ground that was vibrating under her falls still, and the rocks kind of settle, finally. And you find yourselves in quiet, relative quiet.
Winnie would, based on where she's at currently, sort of collapse onto Emig's shoulder, like full weight, which she's never done before, having a hard time keeping herself standing. Oh,
Seeing this, Emig is going to quickly take out a potion of supreme healing and feed it to her.
Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead and roll that, Winnie, just to...
Yeah, she'll drink that willingly.
That's a fun one. That's one we don't get to roll very often. Supreme is, I think, 16d4 or 12d4?
I think 10d4 plus 20.
There you go. It's a lot of potential juice.
Alright, 10d4 plus 20. One moment.
That's a hell of a
30
potion.
minimum.
Sorry, what was that, Lucy?
I said you get 30 minimum.
44.
Holy fuck.
So she'll chug it and then stand up on her own, but she keeps her hand on your shoulder.
Yeah, it's odd to see this too. When she drinks this potion, I don't think you guys have ever actually drank a Supreme. You've pretty much drank up to graders. The glow, you can see her throat as the liquid is going down, visibly glows, and you see the wounds, like where she has broken bones, you see them shudder and then snap back into place and flash seal closed. Kind of shows you the power of the juice she just drank. This is definitely the Kool-Aid I would suggest drinking.
Got cranberry juice mixed in.
Oh, come on.
Well, I'm kind of supporting her. I will kind of look around her towards Falazure and be like, "Hey, you fuck!" And I'll toss him a superior healing.
Yeah, he'll grab it and he'll pop the flask and he goes, "Fuck you! I was inside that thing for like 17 minutes."
Skill issue.
Everybody who's got an intelligence higher than 12 knows that this whole fight lasted all of 45 seconds. So.
Not me.
Yeah, Gartok's like, damn, 17 minutes!
I don't know if we got that high in counting.
Winnie's gonna go over to the space where it just like sealed up and just put a hand to the ground and try to just sense. She's just gonna try to just sense, just like what does it feel like right now?
What does the ground feel
Like
like?
the area, like nature in general surrounding this area.
Um, I'll let you. Yeah, you can make a nature check, but this isn't really like magical. Well, we'll see what you roll.
16.
I mean, it's still. For you especially, rock is hard to read because where you're from, there's not really a whole lot of boulder and just raw ground. You're not from the mountains. Where you're from, it's all very soft soil, and peat bogs and murky jungle pools and wet. This is hard rock, so it's kind of tough to tell like what the general feel of nature is. But I mean, even looking around you, there's no plant or animal life for the most part, and the ground feels still.
She'd stand up and turn toward Emig and say, I think it's actually done.
I can hope so, because I don't have another one of those fights in me.
I don't think any of us do. And she'll look around at the rest of the group.
Yeah, Mundi has sat down at this point. As she sits down, you see she kind of like wipes she like pulls her hair back a little bit, and you can see she's got this horrific gash along her eyebrow that goes all the way back to her right ear. And she just kind of touches it and looks at the blood, and you see she waves her hand momentarily, and there's this flash of magic as she drops concentration on her spell.
Seeing that she's wounded, Winnie would walk over and, without asking or anything, just cast a level 4 Cure Wounds into her.
Okay, and to be clear, as she drops that spell, Ulrich becomes visible again. I believe she had cast Greater Invisibility
She
on
had,
you.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot I was invisible.
20
So
points for her.
suddenly Ulrich materializes, and she looks over and she says, "I'm sorry, baby. I just couldn't keep that going for much longer. Losing a lot of blood here." You healed her for what?
20.
Okay. She looks way better.
And Winnie would have, like, squatted down and she'll say, thank you so much. Thank you.
She kind of nods at you, and she kind of looks around at everybody. You see she's kind of eyeing Sybil in particular.
Sybil still has the glowing blade of glowingness out, and is just eyes like scanning the area past the group, very much still bloodied herself, even after the healing that was put into her at the end of last session, but she hasn't relaxed very, very visibly, and is just like waiting for World Break Around 2 or something like that.
Technically around 3.
Yeah,
World
and
Break Around, nope.
you don't sense anything, you don't see anything, you don't hear anything. Far in the distance, like back the way you guys had teleported from, you can hear the sounds of battle still. I mean, they're still finishing up, but it's not overwhelming like it was when you guys were there. But it's audible. But here it's very quiet, suspiciously quiet.
So.
Gotcha, bitch. Roll for initiative.
You fight yourself now. Anyway, so I'd like to think that Gartok saw like the exchange between like Winnie and Bloodmane, and then Bloodmane, Falager, and like the true chameleon he is, he will then tap Sybil on the shoulder and hold out a greater healing push. I'm not fancy like Bloodmane. I don't have superiors.
So, Sybil was expecting a lot of things in that moment, but a scaly hand on her shoulder was not among them. So there's a visible startle there. And turns and say, "Oh, oh, yeah, thank you." And she will drink this one. How does Gartok look?
Oh, Gartok is basically unscathed. He still has temporary hit points.
Show off.
I didn't do much, but I didn't take much either.
So, just at this point, kind of passively on the ground, Mama Mundi, she kind of begins to sing quietly, and as she is doing so, let me see, give me one moment. So she begins to kind of sing quietly as the group is kind of discussing and healing, and she is going to fire off a couple of mass cure wounds. So that one is going to be for 15. Everybody heal for another 15. And then the last of her spell slots will be for 28. So 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43 hit points to everybody as she sings over the next couple of minutes.
Well, I had been going to drink another potion, but
Yeah,
now
I
I
need
don't think I'm going to.
Does Bloodmane, does he have any visible signs of damage after that?
After that, he's looking fairly decent.
Okay.
By his standards, quite good.
Okay, then I'm gonna cast a level 3 Cure Wounds on him, because it's by his standards, so...
How does Ulrich look?
There's not a scratch on him.
Hey.
And when he goes into almost like a... I guess like a mother mode, where she's like looking Emig over, and then she'll go across the party, because I still have a lot of spell slots left.
Faliger is fully healed after those, and Mama Mundi and Artine are all fully healed.
Sybil looks okay.
Covered in blood still, but not actively pulsing blood. I'm down a little bit. That the closed wounds.
Yeah.
How many hit die is it now?
Hold on a second. I hit 19. I don't think it changes till 20.
I think that's a moot point, honestly, at this point. You've got, only a few hit points you need to heal,
Yes.
and 2 of your hit dice will top that off, and it will not matter for the rest of today, but...
Yeah, it's 4, but yeah, he's right, it doesn't matter.
4 is still a fuckload, especially if you're in the heat of combat.
Mm-hmm. And you have those damn hit dice left.
Alright, so Mama Mundi will sing that lament one last time, and the second pulse of energy kind of swirls around everybody. You guys see the kind of like pink and blue energy sealing what wounds they can. And as she kind of finishes singing and looks around at the group, so where is it we go from here now? Just back to the front lines to assist in cleaning up, or is there something else we need to make happen?
I would love to help clean up the front lines. Help anybody we can get people back to the Grove who need to get back to the Grove. I think that's a good first step. She'll look around at the rest of the group.
Sybil's going to look over at Artine. So that's it for this. It's contained.
So at this point, you see, like Artine looks up, and as she looks up, the glow completely recedes from her body, and she smiles. It seems like it should be a little bit more than that, but it's not.
We're not missing anything?
Oh, I think if we were missing something, that bastard would have dragged his way out of the pit, but you did what you had to do. The ritual succeeded. I could feel the magic binding it. It's not like it's sleeping anymore like it was when it first arrived here. It's dead. Its corpse is just locked away so nothing can get to it. I don't know how much more we can do.
So then it is. Oh,
Yeah, Ulrich.
Oh, nothing. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were doing the Lucy hand raise.
thought
I
it
was
was you.
like,
so
Teacher, I have a. Excuse me. Actually, there is one more step.
Okay, then I guess our next step is just going to help the front lines, right?
Artine kind of glances back at the ground. I put a lot of faith into magic. But I'm still very nervous about this.
I actually might have an idea about that, but I'll talk to you about it when we're done.
All right. That's fine by me. I mean, our part is done. It's cultists are breaking for the wilds. They're not going to get very far without their boats. Ah, wait, those fuckers can swim, can't they? For the most part.
I just. It never goes like this for us. I feel like we're missing something.
I mean, there's not much we can do now, unless you're a druid. Can you perform a meld with stone incantation and drop down to the center of the prime, take a peek, make sure he's taken a forever nap?
Hold on a sec. I'm checking my brain.
I'm sorry, that's a spell that you have? Just go to the center of the... What?
Well, it's not. It doesn't work quite like that. It allows those of natural magic origins be able to, yes, step into stone. And since this is stone,
If we're okay with waiting 10 minutes, I could look.
do you think you could get to the center and back before your spell goes away? Otherwise, you could be taking a nap with him permanently.
Do you know how far down it goes? Because the spell can last 8 hours.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's something we come back to. We could find,
Maybe I could scry on it.
well, that's not a bad idea.
That sounds safer.
She'll take out the orb.
Mundi smiles and she says, might be safer, but far less fun.
Much less fun.
Hey, but if you were to go down there, we would have no idea if your spell failed, you couldn't get all the way there, you were trapped in the stone, or if the thing was actually still awake and ate you.
When I don't want to do it because I'm in the same room as Xavier and he's drinking water. But when he would laugh out loud very suddenly as you're talking, and she would say, "Wouldn't that be stupid if I died in the stone trying to check on whether or not the thing we just killed was dead?" She looks like she's considering it still.
Don't want to write that into the stories.
All right. She'll take out the crystal ball of telepathy. I'm gonna use it to try to scry on the World Breaker and see. I know he's dead, but just see what I can see, if anything.
Okay. One moment.
I have been frantically checking my notes since the World Breaker fell over. This is
I know.
bad.
I'm like, we're
That
missing
you're like,
something. We're
yep.
missing something. We have to be.
There's no way that this is just what happens when we work together and plan effectively. That's just not how things work.
All right, so Winnie, you you take your legendary item out, which it is one of the few legendary items you guys got your hands on. You perform the incantation and you call out the World Breaker. You guys see the ball fills with black smoke, and Winnie, you are the only one feeling the vision. Your vision fades from reality for a moment, and you feel yourself being pulled inward. Your psyche is pulled into the ball. You guys see she kind of lurches forward for a second, and her eyes go wide, and then you see her eyes go black and cloudy, kind of following the black clouds of the ball. She's still breathing. She's still, she doesn't look panicked, or she's not screaming in pain or anything like that, but it's a little odd. Your vision rockets downwards until you feel yourself hit something. You pull back ever so slightly, and there, bound in golden chains, you see the corpse of the World Breaker surrounded by what appears to be a mountain of rock and stone. You swear for just a moment you see one of the chains shift, but you're not entirely sure that you have actually seen that, or if you have and it's because the earth is still physically settling. I mean, this spell manipulated the entire plane of existence. But as that happens, your curiosity, you kind of like look, as you begin to look inward, your vision is grabbed from behind. You feel something grab you like by the center of your spine and yank you up. As you get pulled through the stone, you're watching the stone, the different layers of the earth transform around you until you hit soft soil. Suddenly, you feel yourself yanked up above your body, and you quickly get a glimpse of you and your companion standing around you, watching the scrying orb. You feel yourself being pulled up through the sky. You can see clouds now. Suddenly, there is a moment of resistance as you are pulled through the aurora sphere, and you see this pink kind of buoyant energy below you, and then nothing but black around you for as far as the eye can see. You're pulled further and further and further for what seems like an eternity, until there is literally nothing but black around you. And you find yourself in the deepest recesses of dark space. Suddenly, the grip on your spine spins you around, and for a moment, you hear a soft, almost breathless scream. And Winnie, you see this.
I don't wanna.
And then, as soon as you see it, your vision collapses, and you guys see Winnie take a breath and look up as the ball falls dead. Dormant, excuse me.
Everything okay?
No.
Is it trapped and is it dead? First questions.
Good questions.
Yes and yes, but I thought I saw one of the chains move, and then I got pulled up higher than I ever wanted to be. Oh god, I hate heights. There was a... Did that thing look anything like the World Breaker?
Not in the absolute
Just making
slightest.
sure.
I mean, you see it. I
Yeah,
sent you the picture,
I
so
just
you
saw
know.
the glowing red eyes and stuff, so I just wanted to make sure there was no resemblance.
Nope, absolutely none whatsoever.
There was a... Does it look normal sized or like extra large?
I mean, look at the scale of the picture.
Well, it's space, so
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. And you are a pinprick in space.
Okay. There was a possibly even larger than the world breaker creature up there. She's like pointing just straight up. I mean, it pulled me.
So does Sybil. Because how do you not?
Yeah, there's nothing above you. It's actually a pretty decent day out. A little cloudy.
It pulled me, whatever it was, through the aurora sphere. But I was scrying on the world breaker, so they have to be connected somehow.
There's a bigger, worse world breaker in space.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's gonna break someone else's world. We're probably fine.
Space breaker.
And it pulled you?
I
Or you were pulled to it?
couldn't possibly answer that question.
That's a fair point.
I was
Okay.
so if we want to speak literally and objectively, I was pulled to it, but I can't say who or what did the pulling. Again, I didn't even know this thing existed, so it has to be connected to the world breaker somehow. I was focused on the world breaker, which did look dead. It looked pretty dang dead. But then the chains moved. Maybe. Hard to say. Everything looks kind of fish-eyed. It's really weird.
Well, it's chained for a reason. Corpse or not.
And that thing is in space for a reason. So
What is space?
it's
It's dark space. Let's just so you know, the term that everybody uses is dark space. There is no space.
in dark space for a reason.
We all go to sleep. We all go to dark space.
No, it was different. I've had a fair few trips to dark space myself. It wasn't the same.
Okay, well, regardless, that's not a problem we can worry about right now until we have slept and until, points towards sounds of battle, that has been handled. If we're healed, and I know I feel a lot better, then we should go and finish that up. Then we can regroup and figure out what's next. We know we have a little bit of time, and there's a lot more than immediate wounds that need healing. We'll figure out that, but that's not a right now problem. And then under her breath, but probably not quiet enough, she does a, that can't be a right now problem.
It does. I agree. We need to. It's on us to celebrate the wins. We need to celebrate the wins. We won. And so far, it doesn't seem like there's a catch, and her eyes will, like, very quickly glance up and then back to normal. So let's go celebrate the win with our people and help where we can and create a plan for getting the ones we lost back.
Back to the circle? Or the Ezekiel circle?
It's a good place to start. He usually knows what's going on. She'll help. She'll offer a hand to Mama Mundi. Anybody who's seated, Winnie will offer a hand to.
Yeah, it was just her for the most part. She stands, but she's perfectly healthy at this point. She just sat down to sing and not pass out from blood loss. So,
At that point, by the way, Sybil is going to turn off the giant glowy blade of glowiness.
okay.
Still holding on to the hilt because, fuck this, the dark space, World Breaker Part 2.
Okay, so Mundi stands. Artine kind of smiles and she says, so I suppose we just start walking back? That seems awfully strange, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'll bring us back.
Oh, thank goodness.
I'm gonna send a sending to Ezekiel, let him know that we're coming through the circle.
Okay. You'll get a response from him that says, well, I'm not home right now, but you make yourselves comfortable. You do it anyways.
All right, trying to be better. Cool. All right, everyone, gather around.
All right, so you guys gather around. What is this? Going to be teleport or teleportation circle?
It's going to be plane shift.
Oh,
I
plane
can keep
shift.
to the circle from the staff because I don't have that kind of magic left.
Hell yeah. Okay, so you guys gather up. Ulrich activates the staff. The staff's light kind of surrounds you guys, and you feel yourselves kind of warping in between planes of existence. You vanish from here, and you re-materialize. You rematerialize in like motion beak. Give me one moment to grab your characters.
And so like motion beat could be quiet for the first time in the past couple of weeks, wouldn't it? With all the people having.
So there are still people here, and there is a war finishing on the outside, so it's pretty fucking loud. As far as the density of the people, it's way less because they're all outside the bubble for the most part. I mean, people still live here. Everybody who's fighting for the most part were just fucking, extras. So it is way, like, the density is almost nil compared to where it was. There are still people. There's a lot of people rushing around, tending to wounded. There are piles and piles of dead. It's kind of like the interior of the city's been turned into more or less a makeshift hospital, or triage station. But yeah, for the most part, as you guys, come through, take a peek out the window, you can see the battle is essentially over at this point. They're cleaning up what they can, and flags are being planted in victory, and groups are, tending to their wounded and dead. But you guys flash back into existence in the circle. You exit the circle, and just like Mylar said, or excuse me, just as Ezekiel said, the office is empty. He's not there.
Winnie would probably start beelining toward the front line, just, trying to help whoever we can on the way, whatever. I'll spend all my spell slots healing
Okay.
people throughout that process.
All right, for the sake of brevity, you guys, Mundi and Artine would help too. And actually, Artine didn't cast any spells except for that ritual, so she starts laying down the light of the Lord, of her Lord, bringing down that sweet golden hammer of justice upon those who are wounded and some that are dying. You notice that like those who have freshly died, people are calling out, for soul capture magic, and she runs up and crushes, what God's tears she has left and begins to revivify those that she can, which is kind of an impressive feat in the heat of combat, the way that she does it. But again, for the sake of brevity, we'll say over the course of the next, it's not going to take long to blow literally all of your spells. So,
Yeah,
like,
I've
we'll
got
say
most-
over the course of the next 30 minutes,
Yeah.
you guys tap yourselves for those who are interested.
I'd use Mass Cure Wounds as many times as I could and then go down.
Sure. Yep.
Aim.
Yep. And Artine would be right there behind you guys. And it's actually kind of nice because those, the healers that they had on the front lines, I mean, nobody compares to your guys' power. Like, out here, there's maybe one or two, like, legit heroes who are fighting alongside these people, but they were tapped in the first fucking 5 minutes of that fight. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So you do that. You guys eventually circle back around and meet, and you see the groups kind of now separating. The battle is over. The cleanup has begun. The barrier to the city is brought back down to conserve energy in case there is any resurgences or anything of the sort. And you guys find yourselves among some of the officers. Mylar, Ezekiel are here. Obviously, Artine, Falager. Falager does temporarily take his leave to go back to his people since they were all on the front lines and he was with you guys. But yeah, you guys find yourselves kind of sitting, standing, looking over this fucking mess. And the battlefield is just it's a massive lagoon of blood and bodies. More them than you, by the way, by a long shot.
You should see the other guy.
I think once we finish with the healing and stuff, when you would, she'd be trying to stay pretty close to Emig throughout, however possible, and just keeping an eye on the rest of the group as well as we go about. Once it seems like we're done with, we've done everything we can. I'd still be using closed wounds as much as possible and stuff and all that, but once it seems like we're at that point, then it would kind of be looking around at everybody and, okay, next steps.
Yeah, so
She looks kinda tired.
Ezekiel kind of, he puts his hand up and he says, well, first and foremost, we've got a massive cleanup effort. Thankfully, none of their artillery or units, thank the gods for all of your help, reached the city. I'm not entirely sure how we managed for this to stop on our doorstep, but it's greatly appreciated, as I was not looking forward to the reconstruction of the entire place. We'll spend the next couple of weeks cleaning up after this, tending to our wounded, recovering from the mess, the losses, and we'll get as many people as we can on detail to see to burning the enemy corpses. There's a lot of them, and if there's one thing I know about gnolls, they will begin to fester in a few days. If their god, Yanogu, has blessed any of them, or cursed, depending on how you look at it, there's a possible they're already swollen with swarming lava that will come forth at some point as new gnolls. So we need to get them cleaned up immediately. Actually, maybe we can enlist some of the draconic help in torching them quickly.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea.
From there, thank you. All of you. I mean, the odds of that succeeding the way it did were... Mylar kind of chimes in. Statistically, very low.
Does it help that we caused it? Is that something that worked in our favor?
He laughs and Ezekiel looks at him and just shakes his head. No need to play the blame game or add blame game into statistics. At this point, it appears we've succeeded. I think that we will go to the site where that thing was imprisoned and ensure that we keep plenty of people there, including mages who can quickly get from point A to point B should something go amiss. But for right now, we will hold on to our wavered enthusiasm as the only crutch that we have to progress towards getting ourselves rebuilt as a whole.
All right. Well,
Emig is gonna kind of stretch a little bit and kind of look out. He seems tired, but he's also like fairly okay. There's a lot to be done. I owe it to the Flaming Gale to help put their people on pyres. I believe I'm going to go and help Velager with that. Because for now, we just have to move forward.
I'll assist as well.
Yes. They lost a lot in that engagement. And he kind of looks to Emig. We will ensure... Oh god, I thought Lucy was actually... I thought that was about to turn into a brawl.
He's getting beat up. Somebody help him.
No, Lucy!
Ah, it's still happening.
Grab his dick and twist. No, I'm
Oh,
just kidding.
God. Do not do that.
Don't do
Lucy,
that, don't do
do not
that.
listen to this man.
Reverse.
We don't do that here. Oh god. Oh, thank god he's got headphones on. So he says, we have a lot, especially to Falajor, to thank for. But yes, for now, we'll build their pyres. Mylar and I will have a conversation with Thaxangol the Blue and see about getting the corpses of our enemies torched sooner than later. Just to note, and Ezekiel kind of waves his hand, and you guys see this kind of like translucent, almost ethereal looking map appear in front of him, kind of hovers in front of him, and he kind of just like looks over the map. Stopping this thing here did save lots of lives. I know, and he kind of like points to some of the spots on the map. Most of the Wildlands was destroyed, but we managed to save Clan Thunderbeard and Clan Ironhoof, Zlagmo Shumbik, Kiru, and Nushangu were never touched, and though we are few in numbers between the lot of us, that's something to be celebrated. So, yes, you technically caused this, but I have a sneaking suspicion that that thing was bound to break free eventually. It just so happened to be your little band of fine folk who released it early and then rebound it, and now we don't have to worry about that. And at the end of the day, although say what you will about the Empyrean, they had that thing bound deep in the recesses of their territory for a long time. And although they were pretty much pieces of shit, they're no longer here to rule. And we don't have to deal with the World Breaker anymore, so kind of win-win. At the cost of many lives, of course, let's not forget. But, I don't know. I suppose what I'm trying to say is thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, enough of the waterworks. I suppose it's time to get back to the field. Get ourselves situated. And you didn't destroy anything in my room, did you?
When he's gonna look around at the group at that question, because she does not know the answer.
Ezekiel stares at Gartok.
So does Winnie.
I would like to say he has a snap in his mouth. I'm not gonna do that.
I think Sybil would have been on Gartak. No.
He's picking his teeth with a fucking jeweled wand.
Yeah, a wand with a magic missile too. Careful. don't-
Fireball.
Oh god.
Heartburn.
Spicy.
Why is it
Not-
spicy?
I don't think so. We tried to be careful.
I half kid. Half
too.
kid. He glances at Gartok again.
We
Right.
were good this time.
Gartok would blink at different times.
Sybil reaches out and like moves his arm back that was reaching for something else, just casually.
Lovely. Well,
Probably his arrows.
to work we go then, my friends. As we move into this post-world breakup part of life, I just know that we do truly owe you everything and anything you could possibly ask for. So during the recovery efforts, if there's anything you need from now until the end of your days, or mine, whose ever comes first, feel free to ask. No, Gartok, you cannot have anything off of my walls.
The only thing I could think of would be trying to figure out a way to bring families back together. My concern is those that were lost during combat, that were lost to the various fights. If there's a way for us to get them back, I'd really like to. I figured we'd start with the dwarves and see what kind of diamond storage they have, but...
Artine kind of holds her hand up and she says, "What I can tell you is that there's not a whole lot left. The recovery efforts will need to focus all of our materials, I believe, on those who've sacrificed themselves on this field of battle first. After that, as their souls are much closer to the prime material than those who've been lost before, we can branch outwards. If you'd like, write me down a list of names and where they're from, maybe a little bit about them, those whom you might want back, and if we have access to their corpses. Those are all very important things. If you can transcribe me a list, I will see what," she kind of looks at Ulrich, "the remaining clergy of the Wildlands can do to take care of this."
Thank you.
Right, so on that note, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to begin tending to our efforts. And with that, Mylar and Ezekiel kind of leave you guys. Most of the officers that were there kind of step off with them, and at Bloodmane, at this point, you said you were going with Falazur to assist in the pyre construction. And you guys do, over the night, and we'll say over the next couple of days, because it's a pretty massive fucking effort. You build these grand pyres across the battlefield where these guys fell, and you set them ablaze, and there is a great celebration, as it is not typical for these people to mourn their dead, but to celebrate them going into the next life. And there is a lot of revelry, quite a few fights, which is normal, maybe another death or two, but it's just more fuel to the pyre. So it's pretty wild. And to be honest, the fights aren't even out of like drunkenness or brawls. It's that within their structures, within their ranks, when officers fall, somebody will have to rise up to that. And it's not just a matter of succession, it's a matter of fighting to determine who is the strongest to lead that specific unit. And sometimes death happens. So you guys do that over the next few days. The dragons agree wholeheartedly. They call down their red dragons and their brass dragons to light up the battlefield. Essentially, just kind of go through and systematically torch the corpses of the gnolls, as the fear of Yanogu spawn was pretty high. Thankfully, it doesn't seem that any burst before they have a chance to become fruitful, and that is that. The units relative to the other parts of the Wildlands are slowly ferried through gates and portals to their respective homelands to begin the rebuilding process. In the immediate aftermath, not epilogue content, but in the immediate aftermath, what is it that you guys are doing, if anything else? I'll give you all a chance to kind of button that up.
Winnie would, as she's walking around checking on people, she'd also be trying to take names of anybody who was lost, so that way, if we get to the point down the road where we can get them back, great. But she's also trying to do like a head count just to figure out.
So you're trying to get names of every single person that died on this battlefield?
No, that would be impossible. I just mean, never mind.
Well, no. I'm asking honestly because I'm trying to understand what exactly you're trying to do. Like how big is your recovery effort?
Well, I mean, we know that sources are limited right now, or
Right.
resources are limited right now, so it should just be kind of like anybody who was leading any portion of the army or anything. If they're missing, their name would go on the list for sure. But she's also trying to get an idea of numbers. So if she can at least find out like how many were you, and then see how many there are now in each separate group. But it's fine because it's going to be too much.
Well, I would say, I mean, you're more than welcome to do that. It's probably going to take you like many weeks to really get those numbers because people will be able to be brought back. Also, it's kind of tough because, I mean, are you going to include all of the Pyre guys? Because I don't think they're coming back.
No,
At
they're
least
not coming back.
maybe one more spin around the wheel and they'll be
No,
back.
I wouldn't do them. I mean, that could be part of. It can be kind of partially now, partially epilogue.
Okay.
But she gives lots of shits about the people who died, so if she can get the names, she will.
And I was asking that honestly because when we had talked about this before, you told me that you were just going to focus on people who had died like in your guys' travels, like because of you.
Right.
So I thought you had specific names of people you were putting down on there, not surveying this battlefield.
I gotcha.
And
Yeah,
to be
I mean-
fair, there was hundreds of thousands of people that were on this battlefield.
Yeah, it's any of the leaders would be on her list for sure. So any of the leaders that were lost that we had met with in the council are definitely on the list. But then any generals that we interacted with and stuff like that would be on the list. It's going to be a long list, but not hundreds of thousands because that's not possible.
I have a question. Is this the type of thing where eventually there will be death counts, death tolls, death rolls like that come back, reports of the dead? Is that something that
Eventually, of probably some units, but remember, this is a coalition of units that was thrown together under a ragtag banner, right? So there's no like formal hospitalier unit that was in charge of that. However, respective units are probably going to track. The ones I can tell you are not going to track, you're probably not going to know a whole lot about the dragons because they're, monstrous. And you're probably not going to get shit back on the Flaming Gales because they have no interest in coming back from the dead.
Right.
Because they're monstrous.
You're monstrous, you fucking chameleon.
How fucking.
I agree. It's a compliment.
Yeah, but eventually you will. I mean, you'll get numbers. You just might not get names of every soldier or even every commander. It might, But a lot of people died.
I'm sure Winnie will do what she can there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anybody else?
No, Gartok is waiting for instructions because his tradition is eating the dead to honor them, and he was told not to eat things he's not allowed, so he's just standing away.
He is never given permission to eat these dead.
Set him loose on the charred hyena corpses.
I would.
Would call it Grubhub, because the things inside them.
On that note, Sybil's going to be moving similarly to how Winnie is, but she's going to be doing more of listening to the ebbs and flows of the conversations, to the things that people are speaking about, turning to the key moments in battle that people are clinging to. Like, she's going to be listening for those highlights and then helping and sharing some of what she's hearing, but she's going to be doing a lot more listening than speaking for now.
Okay. Yeah, and
When people want stories.
Yeah, and the listening that like what you get out of walking around and listening, you know, obviously everybody is saddened by losses, but they are absolutely thrilled by victory because you guys were outnumbered. Just do the math really quick. You guys were outnumbered almost 3-1 on this field, which is kind of a big fucking deal. So just for numbers, just for funsies, I guess, just so you guys know, you had 54,070 infantry, 16,970 archers, you had 6,250 cavalry, 350 flying units, and a whopping 680 artillerymen. They had 73,300 infantry, 33,200 archers, 49,500 cavalry, 4,500 flying units, and 3,500 artillerymen. So, now mind you, 3/4 of their fucking cavalry were those asshole spider riders that were just wiped off the fucking map in 10 minutes, so, you know. Okay. Anyways, what you're hearing though is the joy in people that feeling so outnumbered ended as well as it did. Especially you hear a lot of like, you know, we thought we were done for, we were being surrounded, and then all the other tribesmen showed up. You know, all 80 of the tribesmen showed up, and we surrounded them, and we worked together under the banner of the Wildlands. And it's just a lot of like, I can't believe that people we've never met, you know, tribes from opposite ends of the archipelago came together under the same banner and just fucking smoked their units off the field. That's where the excitement comes in. And you see a lot of intermingling too, Sybil. As you are walking throughout, you are seeing, you know, Mungari and Stillwater troops who are 300 miles away and separated by a small chain of islands, you know, hugging each other and thanking each other for the save, you know, and just, you see that all over. Everybody is kind of come together at this point, except the Flaming Gales. They kind of keep to themselves.
It's for the best. They're thirsty boys.
Yeah, they're having a good time. All right.
Okay, that's me popcorning over to the others.
Anybody else? No pressure, by the way. Obviously, this is.
How's Felger doing?
He's good. He's pumped. His people succeeded. Losses were expected. And although they were more than what he anticipated, because they did lose quite a bit, even though they were more than what he anticipated, excuse me, he is very pleased with how they performed, and he's even more pleased to be able to send them off. And he is very thankful for you and everybody who helps in assisting with the pyres, because with the numbers they have left, which was... So they were reduced. Actually, they may have been wiped off the field. I mean, not 100%, obviously, but I don't even have a token on here, which tells me that they got fucking nixed. Either way, they lost a shitload of men. And... you know, at this point, he's just reveling in their victory. If you don't get wiped out to the last man, you succeeded. For the most part, because they don't flee from fucking battle, so. Okay, so, again, the recovery effort continues. We will kind of flash forward over the next couple of weeks where everybody is really separated now. Things have died down. You do a constant check over and over every day. There are people posted 24/7 now at the site of the Binding of the World Breaker. Massive site, or massive outpouring of security, just to make sure there's nothing funky going on. And the respective tribes go back to where they came from. The dragons assist in taking the Flaming Gales back to the Great Naladari desert before heading back north to the prize that they were promised. And things begin to mend in the Wildlands. So, with that being said, we can move into your guys' epilogue content. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go through. I have all of your information, obviously. And then I have a lot of NPC epilogue content, which I'll share with you guys as well. But for the moment, I will let you guys kind of go through your own. We'll just go in order here of who I've got on camera. So Ulrich, do you want to go through your own bit, or do you want me to go through it?
I can go through it.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
At least the first part of it, and you can give the phrase. So Ulrich will. As he kind of hinted at before, he's going to go with Artine, see if she is willing to go through with this, and kind of just start looking for other divine souls to see if there are any others like them out there, and kind of get this little, well, however many, if they find anyone. If they don't, then they don't. And then at the site where the World Breaker is sealed, he's going to try and start getting people together to start building a temple to all of the gods. A place where everyone can go and feel and be welcomed for help or whatever like that. And then he will stay there and man that temple as his last charge of his what he was put here to do. Like it's now done, so he will live out the rest of his life just manning this temple, bringing anyone in that wants to construct something, as long as it's, as long as we're not getting, good old evil deities up in here. This is good guys only club. But yeah, and then just stay watch to make sure that the World Breaker never gets up, never does anything else. He just stands over watch, and he wants to name the temple Breaker's Fall. So.
Yeah, so, and that, excuse me, throat's a little funky today. It's all that fucking popcorn yesterday.
Oh, I was wondering too, because I was just telling Kat I feel like I'm having issue too.
Yeah, it's because we ate movie theater popcorn and I feel like shit. So, and that does come to fruition. So over the next couple of centuries of Ulrich's existence before his soul is called back to Bahamut to take one more spin around the wheel, he focuses all of his energy on this temple, and seeking with Artine, who does agree to help him in this effort, travel throughout the archipelago, and maybe even traveling as far west as Trubin Shard, or even down to Trinity, in order to identify divine souls to bring back to this temple to then build, watch over, dedicate to the imprisonment of the World Breaker and all of the evil that is included within it. And it comes to fruition. I am going to show you the Grand Temple of the Gods, Breaker's Fall, that is erected. And I'm going to, since you and Artine kind of tie in, I'm actually going to go ahead and read you guys Artine's epilogue content here as well. So Artine agrees to assist in the construction of a massive temple, Breaker's Fall, over the spot where the World Breaker was pulled into the center of the Prime Material. She and Ulrich enlist the help of the dwarves, along with clergy members, specifically divine souls, from the faiths of Pelor, Foltis, Moradin, Bahamut, Garl Glittergold, and Yondala. Champions of faith under Heskin, Saint Cuthbert, Celestian, and Bakab agree to watch over the temple. After a half a century of construction, the Grand Temple is erected. After the construction, our teen lives for some time before eventually accepting death's embrace. She sends a missive to all those still alive from the original group and invites everyone to the funeral to celebrate with her one more time before she's permanently laid to rest. And as she is laid to rest, she bids farewell to the congregation, promising to return in her next reincarnation. Okay. Winnie and Bloodmane, the Druid and the Tide.
So I wrote a thing. You want me to read?
You do it however you want to. Your guys' stuff was a lot of fun. I could do it, but you do you.
What did you say there, Kurt?
Read away.
All right. Okay, so I'll just read what I wrote, and then Xavier, feel free to add in anything that you created. Okay. The battle had been won. The dust of fate had settled, and the world stood still, if only for a moment. Winnie stood at the edge of the shore, the sea wind tugging at her moss-colored cloak, her bare feet sinking into the cool, damp sand. Beside her, Emig let out a quiet breath, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "You're sure about this?" he asked. Winnie tilted her head thoughtful. "I am." Emig had died. For a moment, one awful, endless moment, he'd been gone. And then Falcona, in an act of impossible love and sacrifice, had given herself so that he could return. She had made her choice without hesitation, without fear. Neither of them spoke about that much, but the weight of her absence never left them. The world felt different without her in it, smaller. But Winnie and Emig knew she wouldn't have wanted them to stop moving, and so they sailed. Their first stop was the flotilla, where Emig was greeted like a long-lost brother, his return a miracle none had expected. Winnie, always more at home in the quiet of forests and Feywild groves, found herself swept into the wild chaos of seafarer's life. It was here that she learned to balance herself against the sway of the ship, to read the wind as easily as the trees. They gathered a small crew. Some stayed only for a time, others became family. They hunted lost ruins, faced storms and sea monsters, and carved their names into legend. Winnie found herself laughing more and worrying less, and Emig lived with a fierceness he never had before. He was her anchor, and she was his sky. But the past always calls. One day they returned to the grove. Winnie's grandfather was waiting, the ancient wisdom in his eyes seeing more than she could ever put into words. "You've changed," he said simply. She had. She knelt in the heart of the grove, placing her hands on the roots of the oldest tree. She whispered her apologies, her gratitude, her love. And then she stood and breathed, long, deep breaths that made her feel whole. She'd always return, of course. This place would always be a part of her. They split their time between sailing and tending to the grove, living out the best of both worlds. As they readied themselves for their next adventure, Emig, standing beside her, reached out and took her hand. "Where to now, Druid King?" She smiled. "Wherever the wind takes us." And so they returned to the sea. Years passed, and then decades, then centuries. The world changed around them, but their ship remained, sailing ever onward. They lived happily in this way, grove to sea and sea to grove. Emig aged as all mortals do, his body slowing, his hair silvering. He no longer climbed the rigging as he once had, but he still sat at the helm, still laughed as the sea spray kissed his face. All right, bear with me, y'all. Until one day he didn't. He passed as he had always wished to, on the deck of his ship, beneath the open sky, with Winnie at his side. There was no fear in his eyes, only peace. "Don't let the ship sink without me," he'd murmured, smiling even as his strength faded. Winnie held his hand. "Never." And then he was gone. She laid him to rest in the sea, the crew standing in solemn silence as the waves carried him home. She spoke no words. None were needed. Instead, she listened. To the wind, to the tide, to the whisper of his voice in the waves. And then she sailed on. Winnie lived long after Emig's passing, her Asmar blood carrying her through centuries. She captained the ship alone for a time, though never truly alone. Emig's laughter still echoed in the creak of the wood, his presence in every wave that rocked the hull. She took on new crew, told new stories, watched the world change. But one day, after lifetimes upon the sea, she stood at the bow, and closed her eyes. She let the wind carry her, let the sea embrace her, and as her body faded into ethereal light, she swore she could hear Falcone's voice calling her home. The ship sailed on, empty now, yet never truly abandoned, and the ocean whispered their names forever.
Well, me interjecting is going to fuck all that up, so I'm going to let that stand as it is.
Thank you for the ship, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if I want to touch too much more on the Druid and the Tide.
Yeah, the only other things I can, if you want, I can, unless you did something with the other notes that I gave
So
you.
I mean, these are a little like maybe even offline things, but I know that you wanted to go to the Druid Grove underwater. You go there. It's not as impressive as you would have thought because it's pretty much just all shells and sand and seaweed. But you tend to it for a little while. The one who was there. Now, it's still technically a grove through its innate magic nature of being a grove. However, it is not tended to because the Tideweaver had gone, everybody had gone, and there was not a whole lot left to it. So when you get back there, there's not much to it. Over time, there is another Archdruid that is chosen to tend to it, and over the course of, we'll say, a few hundred years, it does come to bloom quite well. Not anything to note. It's not game-changing or world-ending or anything like that, as they want to stay as out of the public eye as possible, considering they're under the sea. But you do visit it and note its growth over time. So the druid, yes. So she would have seen the druid magic. Okay, in one of your brother's kids. Okay, so Yin did not marry.
Okay.
He took a devout vow of celibacy and dedicated everything in his existence to the sanctity of the Galorian Jungle Oasis and the Galorian Jungle as a whole. I'll get to that bit in a little bit, but he never had children.
Got it.
Sorry, just bear with me. I'm highlighting the notes so I don't circle back on anything. Emig and Winnie would have taken in wayward kids, and they would join either the flotilla or the grove. And when the time came, or gone whenever they wanted to. Yeah. So that's easy, because if there is one thing that World War, for lack of a better term, is there's one thing that it does really well, it creates orphans. Especially orphans with no guidance. And orphans with no guidance often end up being pirates, and the last fucking thing we need is pirates. Oh, wait, we have some of those. Or do we? So, you guys, over the course of your travels, until you get into your elderly years, take in hundreds of kids. And teach them the ways of the sea, and you take them from every section of the continent. Once word gets out in your travels that there is some rogue ship on the loose that is taking in children and teaching them the ways of the sea, and then teaching them the ways of nature and salve making, alchemy, carpentry, rigging, fishing, people begin sending children out. All of a sudden, you guys will be at the flotilla to restock on something, and they say, 2 weeks ago we had a ship show up and those 4 kids were on board. They're from, the Stillwater and Mandalari area, and parents couldn't be located, and they didn't have generational wealth enough to bring them back via resurrection. So would you be interested? And through the course of time, you guys see to a lot of children. Okay. Yes, the diamonds, the diamond thing with the dwarves. You already set that in motion, and that's part of Artine's kind of like back end. She puts together a small contingent of Moradinian clergy whose specialty is diamond mining, and they are sent to every dwarven territory that is owned by both land dwarves and sky dwarves to mine until the very last diamond is mined. Even at the tail end of your guys' existence, diamonds were still being mined. There was no short supply. It just, because there was never any serious need for it, it wasn't a focus, in the early on. But over the course of a few thousand years, those who are on that list, at least those who could be brought back up into a certain point, anything short of, a wish spell, which has been essentially forbidden in the Wildlands. They don't even teach it. They don't even teach the early words of the incantation in arcane schools or divine schools. You guys are capable of bringing back those people. Though, again, even post your death, there are still people on the list that need to be brought back, and they're just a matter of figuring out exactly how to do it. But you make a great effort in doing so. Now, as far as Falcona, bringing Falcona back is going to be a tough one. As Falcona was not of the plane of existence that you guys were on, she made a willing sacrifice, and undoing what she did, you learn over time, could undo what she did, the choice that she made. And, over the course of a pretty short while, considering her body is in a grove, you utilize it in a very special location in the grove, just outside of where the portal is, the gate is, and you plant her. I mean, she is organic material. You plant her in the soil, and through your druid craft, you force vines to take root in her feet, and as time progresses, her body extends upward, still kind of keeping that familiar female shape, but growing tall and wide as her arms stretch out into branches and her hair falls into essentially a small effigy, though maybe not intended to be burnt, but it's definitely a memorial, and she is the first weeping willow that is bloomed and grown in your grove, and she's the only weeping willow that you are aware of. Okay. Sybil and Gartok.
Oh, we're trying to follow up this? Okay. Gartok, do you want to start with the immediate after after we help out with the, post-battle chaos and stuff? What happens in the next couple weeks?
Sure. So, Sybil had promised Gartok a hunt, and he wanted to make good for that. So, probably a little begrudgingly on Sybil's part, she was dragged back to where they originally found Gartok, his jungle near Kiru, and there they hunted the biggest thing that they can find, essentially, as is tradition. His tribe, and he gifted her hopefully it was something with horns or like whatever big teeth.
So the biggest thing in that territory is a massive a Tyrannosaurus Rex, essentially. It's a little bit more ridge-backed than what you would normally expect. Your people referred to it as dire, as spikes grew up and out of the crest of its brow and then along its back. It was massive, and Kiru, that whole island up there was untouched by the World Breakers. So this shit flourished, especially with the hobgoblins gone and your tribe gone. He became the king of the fucking jungle. And it took you guys weeks to successfully hunt this bastard. And it took a large amount of poisoning, trapping, and then making your final blows to kill it. But you do eventually bring down the king of the jungle.
And once we do that, and it's
Fun.
sorry, what'd you say?
Said that would be fun. That'd be a fun fight.
It would be. So when it's eventually down, Gartok would essentially point to its spines, its teeth, whichever was biggest, and offer Sybil a choice. And he'd make her a trinket, something like a necklace or a band or just a trophy to put on like a wall or wherever. Maybe even a knife, depending on the tooth. And give it to her as his essentially finishing the hunt, and grateful that she stayed by him. After that, I believe Sybil has stuff she wants to do.
Oh no. Okay. So that hunt, though it may have started a bit begrudgingly, ends up more than likely being the first hunt of many. Though most others wouldn't be to that scale, because they were going to be very, very busy for the rest of Gartok's very, very short lifespan. So the next little thing that they're doing over, before I jump into the three big things, is over the years, Sybil's going to make sure that they stop by the temple, stop by Artine and Ulrich, maybe when they touch down on shore, the druid and the tide, but she's going to make sure that they're there to be helpful if they need supplies from further, if they need someone to sweep the back room, because everyone else is doing big magic ritual things and they just need someone to do the dirty work. Like, they'll be there and be helpful. So that's the little thing. Sorry, switching back to my notes. But the big thing that they are going to do, and they'll enlist the help of Winnie for this, but Sybil has been talking about doing this for months and months, with the help of the great Druid King. We'll put together the memorial tree for all who have fallen to the Empyrean, to the World Breaker, to the brutalities of war, to all of those things. And I don't know if you have notes about that before I jump forward, so I'm going to shut up.
So, 50 years goes by, and everybody, I saw a lot of,
we might have to talk timeline there, because Gartok only lives like 30, 40 more years.
Okay. Well, timeline aside, time goes by. It's moot at this point. A great deal of time goes by. Decades definitely go by as everybody separates and does their thing. But on one of the anniversaries, a decade-level anniversary, you guys return to the to Breaker's Fall, which is still in construction at this point, but is in the process of being built. And there is an area to the north. It would be to the direct west, where the site of the battle was, in between here and Zlagmoshambik, where the ground has healed. Nothing remains except for, again, maybe some effigies where the pyres of the Flaming Gales still stand as a memorial to their people. But in the spot where this great battle took place, you all reconvene for just a couple of days and enlist the help of the great Druid King in order to create a massive tree that will memorialize the people who died to the World Breaker and to those that succeeded at bringing it down. in its design, Winnie begins to create it with your assistance as more of a kind of straight-laced, almost perfect-looking tree, and you decide eventually that making it more erratic and wild to represent all of the different branches of the Wildlands that the people came from, to assist in this process, in this success, in this war, was more appropriate than making it, the epitome of perfection. So with that, the once perfect looking branches begin to twist and gnarl and branch in awkward angles. And as you dedicate the tree to the people of the Wildlands, gates flash into existence as magi from the now arcane schools, we'll get to that in just a bit here, begin to ferry in veterans of the war, families who lost people through the rampage of the initial trek across the Wildlands. And these people begin to decorate the tree with ribbons, medals, plaques, flowers, dedicated to all those who died under the weight of the World Breaker and its aftermath. And that is that. You guys celebrate, bring the tree into existence, and it's said that to this day people make pilgrimages to the tree to replant flowers, to find medals, to read epitaphs that were left there, and you've created something quite grand.
I love that. I love that so much.
Very cool.
I just got a message from Discord that just said, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry."
You guys can see that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of this is just so good and so heartbreaking, honestly. This is how many years?
Many.
Long before the memorial tree is created, though, in the months that I'm jumping around timeline wise a little bit, in the months that would have followed the great battle, Sybil is going to she's going to travel back home to where their last tent once was, where she had found the scraps of fabric, though it's long since ash and ruin now, and she is going to just finally take some time to actually mourn her troop that died, when she could never stop long enough to really be sad over. Their names aren't going to make it to Winnie's list. She knows that there's a limited supply, and this is not the world that they should be coming back to, even though there is hope and growth and all of this positivity now. But she's going to take time and do just a tiny little memorial, probably there where no one will see it, maybe behind one of the hidden walls that the twins like to do, where they stashed goods sometimes, but just she'll take some time to mourn. And then she's going to do her big thing, which is her and Gartok, and I think that's Lucy's thing to describe, ironically.
So, to interject here, as you have your small memorial behind where the tent once stood, where the walls are now collapsed and things were once hidden, you feel a sense of peace, finally, being able to pour out your emotion into the earth that once held one of the most amazing all-female performing troops in these Laneshi region. You leave, and you tend to other things. You return sometime later, as you process and grieve, and then go into this next section, which I have highlighted here. But eventually, when you return, you always, anytime you return to Slanesh, you make sure that you go to that spot just to pay homage, even if it's just to tip your hat. And one day you return, and you hadn't been here in a while, but as you round the corner where the tent once stood, there is a set of statues placed upon a pedestal with a flower blooming underneath it, and a small placard that reads, "We were, we are, the Daughters of Eternity."
Oh, I was not expecting that at all.
Gotcha.
Okay. Do you want to do the description bit for this next section? Because you've written things. You know what our plan is for that.
So this is the troop bit.
Yes.
Okay, that I have left open to your creative
Okay.
juices. It comes to fruition, but I will let you guys creative juice that.
Okay. Give me a second. I'm grabbing a drink.
All right, I guess I'll do my section. Hopefully, Kat is still here. So, Sybil, Kat has mentioned, Sybil asks Gartok to join the troop. Originally, he is not very helpful, admittedly, because he's not very smart, and the only instrument he knows is the horn, which is more used to signal hunts than anything else. However, over time, he learns and becomes a distinct figure, not because of anything he plays or knows how to do, because of his colors. As a chameleon, he spends time with the troop and their natural colors and themes, which I'll let Sybil describe. His outer layer, his back, his arms, all become these colors that match up to that. Instead of wearing a uniform. However, his stomach, inner core, walking billboard, exactly. However, his inner core changes to mostly a blue hue, where whenever he can, he's as close to Sybil as he can be, and often hugging her or just staying close as she teaches him to read and write. And maybe actually perform something. Also, he does do cleaning.
The real reason we keep him around. Okay. So, see if I can do this. After, it might have been the day that she saw the Daughter of Eternity memorial, and it might have been before that. Time kind of blends together in the end. But eventually, Sybil, after realizing that she can't spend the rest of her existence just helping out in the temple or waiting for the Druid in the Tide to return to shore, or going and hunting dire T-Rexes, because of that last fight was way too close. Realizes that there is more that she can do. There's more that she and Gartok can do together. And it starts small with in various places where they travel, starting in taverns and trying not to kill old ladies, and visiting some of the friends and family of friends and the fallen that all of the people from along the journey. They start sharing some of the stories of the things that have happened, the tales of the group, the cautionary warnings or cautionary tales about wish spells and the world breaker and things that reside deep below, both below in the depths of the prime material and the depths of the sea. Start spreading some of those stories, and as they start sharing the stories, they start collecting people themselves, others who are interested in remembering, in sharing, in making sure that things that need not be forgotten are truly remembered. And they end up starting a new troop. Sybil does what she had never done before and actually leads this troop with Gartok by her side for a couple of short decades. And they are focused, they travel throughout the newly healing world, but it's focused a lot on memory, epic battles, coming up with new, less lethal drinking songs, all of the important things from this campaign. She still goes up in the rings and still performs herself. But it ends up shifting to something that'll last long beyond her own relatively short lifespan. And that's her biggest thing, is just half of this bullshit started at the beginning because they didn't know the Empyrean were keeping the World Breaker contained. So these important things, it's a lot of making sure the important is continued. She does not ever tell anyone, this is how this horrible corpse was locked down. There's no answers to unraveling what they've done, but it's historic and entertaining all in one. That goes for a couple of decades before Gartok's scales start dulling, I believe. And Lucy, we're back to you.
Yeah, so as Gartok, as a lizard folk, he can only live up to a maximum of 60 years, in comparison to the Genasi's double that, actually. Exactly double, 120. And as they travel, Gartok likes to think he somehow convinced Sybil to do this. But in reality, Sybil probably figured out something was off a while ago. And when Gartok's 58, not much left in him. When I die, no, not that. It's in his culture where in your final years, you do not let those close to you see you weakened and gone. So, as we near
I was going to ask him to kill him.
Kiru for a performance, Gartok is just not there one night. A note with better, but still distinctly Gartok scrawled note, thanking Sybil for everything and for being his new tribe and for everything she's done. He himself has wandered off back into his
He's an
forest,
emotional dude.
where he slew
I love it.
the king of the jungle and takes up his bow one last time and is never heard from again.
Well, fuck. All right.
Yeah, and I get 60 more years after this fucker dies.
I didn't want to hear it. I had centuries.
Yeah, so Gartok takes to the jungle where he undertakes the final hunt and is lost to his homeland. Or maybe refound. And as far as the troop is concerned, and the intention behind the troop, because I kind of knew where you were going with this. So, in the process of gathering stories, gathering information, you and Gartok not only tell stories and gather stories from the Wildlands and from your point in history, but you begin to, through your innate way of doing so, gain the attention of bards, storytellers, and performers from all over the Prime material, as far west as Trubenshard and as far south as Trinity. And what is born of this, maybe not necessarily in your lifetime, but definitely at some point after it, so the story goes, is that an order of lore masters is born of the teachings and the stories and the knowledge that you compile of Prime material history. I'll leave that at that and maybe revisit that in another campaign.
I knew I'd put that +2 history score to good use.
Oh yeah, the lore masters. You mean from the World Breaker thing? Yeah, I know those fucking guys.
I am, I'm realizing I forgot to mention this. Just a lot of times, I spent so much time over the past week trying to figure out what the fuck to call this troop. And I still don't have something that I am completely happy with. But the thing that I kept coming back to was way back in, I think it was like 2021. This was 2021.
It's a long fucking time ago.
October of 2021. When we as a group were first coming up with names for who the fuck we were going to be, which we then later dropped and never referenced again. We were the Circle of the Free Peoples. And I think she just ends up at some point, it's just the Circle. It's kind of an homage to many things, to those early conversations, to the circles of the druids, to their circle of family, to all of that. But that's kind of what I kept coming back to throughout all of it. But yeah, 2021. That's that. And beyond that, Sybil lives for a handful more decades after Gartok disappears. She probably never. Wow. That's a thing. Level 7. Yeah, it's been a wild one in the Wildlands. But she lives for a few more decades. I don't think she ever really dates or marries or falls in with anyone else. Like, her family is the troop and the stories and those that are on camera at the moment. But that's just what she does until she can't go up into the hoops anymore, and until it's her time, and then just probably very peacefully, or tripping and falling off a stage, one of the two.
Fucking break her neck, and they're like, well, she's fucking stone sold like 9 times, so there ain't no way we're bringing her back this time.
It's gonna be her hip. She's going to, the last word entirely in jest is just, at this point she's figured out how to speak giant a little bit better, and she just, I will not be a cripple again.
She just evaporates.
Just very, very peaceful, and probably ends up in Slaaneshi at the end, or by Gartok. I don't know. Just nothing super fancy or dramatic. No notes for anyone to break their heart. Just sees us to be. That's what I have for epilogue things.
All right, that is. You guys have all laid out some very intense, fucking epilogue content.
You laid out an intense fucking campaign.
I mean, it's, yeah, I know it. It's 11:51 right now. I know we need to get the littlest one down for a nap really quick. But why don't we do this and just take a 10-minute break? I still have quite a few NPCs to run through on my end. So it looks like I've got like eight or nine, somewhere right around there. So I'd like to get those guys. I'd like to share their epilogues with you, and then we'll kind of move on from there. But why don't we take like 10 minutes and grab a bite to eat, go potty, brush your teeth, whatever you got to do. I don't care what you do. Sorry, I'm talking about
Ugly
kids
cry
here.
off screen.
Ugly cry off screen. Yep, no, it's fine too. All right, guys, we'll be back in 10. And for those of you who are hanging out here on stream, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this up real quick. We'll be back in 10 minutes, and we will finish up our Wildlands epilogue. Wildlands epilogue.
Yes.
Broccoli and cheddar always makes it better. Sounds so good. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you soon. All right. Hello to those of you hanging out in chat. We appreciate you guys being here. We got all sorts of crazy shit going on. Chew, good to see you, buddy. We're getting ready to finish this campaign out. We're going to go through the remainder of the epilogue content of NPCs. Then we're going to go into some Q&A stuff. So,
Lady says she's sad. She doesn't want it to be over.
Lady girl. Oh, God, she's so cute. God, I love her. Payne says, is Cat holding a potato? Yes. Yes, you are. That's potato. That's the lady potato. She's so sweet. I actually think it's her angle. Lady's pretty skinny, isn't she? Or has she gotten plump?
It's not that. She's got the barrel chest.
Oh, that's right.
So,
Yeah, she's thick.
Yep. Yes. And right now, though, for support, her front paws are on either side of me. So she is, like, splayed.
She's, like, sprawled out.
She's trying to be a lapdog. It is not going super well for her. To say this is not a particularly skinny dog.
Yeah, that's true. She's not like a terrier or anything. Thanks, Seru. Great one shot. Let's do it again sometime. Seru smartass just said in chat, man, this has been a fantastic one shot. Cannot wait to see you run another one.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I am very concerned about the campaign 2 teaser that Winnie got. I'm scared.
You mean campaign 4?
Yeah. Well, my campaign 2.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
No, but your campaign 3. Unlikely Heroes is part of this world.
Yep.
That's like a 1.5 for me.
Fair enough. All right. Welcome back,
I'm gonna
everybody.
Start getting serious about thinking about Amelia, though.
Candace and I were just talking about that, actually.
We were, yep.
Okay. So, the friends you made along the way. Let's start with Ezekiel and Mylar. Seems appropriate. Ezekiel and Mylar Ashande. The Arcane Brothers banded together for the first time in centuries and created a new school of magic, focusing on both sorcery and wizardry in Zlagmoshumbik, with a sister school built in Zlaneshi. The impact of the school on the Wildlands was intense, with a specialized group of mages focused solely on making annual trips to every other tribe to test children coming of age for magical aptitude. For the next few centuries, thousands of wizards and sorcerers were trained in the arcane arts and branched out to both Trubinshard and Trinity in order to share their knowledge with up-and-coming mages. You're a wizard, Harry. All right. Mama Iloma Mundi. Mama Mundi returned to Stillwater and was hailed as a hero among her people. She took the reins once again as the leader of the tribe. In her later years, she retired from the position of leader to teacher of the bardic arts. Bards from every corner of the prime material flocked to Stillwater to learn the ways of the exotic dance. May or may not have opened a strip club. No. As all things do, she eventually aged beyond her years and passed on, being laid to rest, per her wishes, in a mausoleum set into the cliffside separating Stillwater and Mandalari, as a tribute to her kin who were once enslaved by the Empyrean. Falazure Flamingale. Falazure and his Flamingale horde returned to the Great Naladari Desert, where they thrived for many years. Falazure died in a duel for leadership in the year 3880 PFH, it's post-First Happening, 28 years after the demise of the Worldbreaker. This was during an event known as the Branch, when travelers from beyond the Prime Material entered the Aurora Sphere surrounding the Prime Material. He was set ablaze atop the greatest pyre the world had ever seen, calling the attention of tribes some 200 miles away.
I love that there's what almost looks like a skull, like, in the flames. No, that's not a what almost looks. That full out is.
That's the Tanaruk. They kept that thing's skull. No, it's not the Tanaruk, I'm kidding. That'd be pretty hardcore, though. Burn that demon skull when I go up in flames.
Wow.
Gotta send a big guy off with a big fire. Alright. Thaxingol the Blue. So the ancient dragon Thaxingol the Blue returned to the former Empyrean territory, where he, along with his conclave of dragons, rebuilt and ruled over the land. As time went by, and his power waned, conflict broke out among the dragons, leading to the eventual destruction of the conclave. During a great battle for power, dragons of like colors banded together and fought one another, reducing their numbers by more than 75%. The survivors scattered to the corners of the Prime Material and took up residence in their preferred climates. Settlers from the surrounding tribes, cities, and villages eventually made their way north to the former Empyrean territory and claimed what the dragons had built, destroyed, and abandoned. Grim the Quickshot. Thought I forgot about him. Grim Quickshot went on to become the lead demolition expert for Clan Ironhoof for the better part of the next century, eventually founding his own school. As he grew old, he began a family and had 7 children, eventually retiring and handing the reins over to his eldest son. Upon his death, he was immortalized by Clan Ironhoof with a massive 20-cannon airship rightfully named the Quickshot. The Raging Waves. The flotilla set sail and began branching outwards from the Wildlands. For the next century, they visited every corner of the Prime Material, making trade with all those who sought peaceful bargains. The flotilla grew in size as they went, eventually reaching upwards of 10,000 ships. In the year 4200 PFH, the flotilla, no longer able to sustain itself with the surge of sea vessels, took to the wailing waters and left this plane of existence. Occasional messages still arrive at the Academy of Arcane Arts and Sciences in Zlagmoshumbeek, telling of the wonders of the elemental plane of water, where they roam the forever seas.
Can I ask a super quick question?
Mm-hmm.
You said PFH for the timing?
Yep, post first happening. That's the common.
Okay.
That's the era you guys are in right now.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yep. Okay. Yin, Mom, and Dad. This is Winnie's family. So Winnie's mother and father returned home with Yin and rebuilt the Galorian jungle oasis. Followers of Obid High flocked to the oasis to learn the teachings of Oloferin, which is Winnie's father. When their time came, Lorafina and Oloferin returned with the help of their daughter to the grove of the Circle of the Shepherd in the Feywild. Yin took charge of the oasis and oversaw the training of an order of paladins named the Oak Father's Cudgel. The order saw to the defense of the Galorian jungle and defends it still to this day. Okay, so that is it for my NPCs, but I do have one note here, because during their travels, Bloodmane and Winnie wanted to travel north to Hilmar to kind of figure out what the heck is going on up there. So I have a little something for you as far as that's concerned. So Hilmar is a massive settlement in the far frozen north of the Prime Material, to the northeast of the Wildlands. Though it's not typically welcoming of outsiders, those who are of giant kin are welcome, which, luckily enough, is both of you. The settlement is made up exclusively of frost giants, Goliaths, and half-giants. You do the math. They survive mainly on seafood and mammoth meat, and utilize those same mammoths as mounts and beasts of burden. All right, and that, my friends, is the end of the epilogue content that I have for my NPCs and places. So we will call the campaign officially closed, and that is that.
I have questions.
Yes, so I will open the line to you guys for questions about things. If you don't mind, I would like to share some statistics about this campaign.
Yeah.
Quickly, game statistics. So we played 78 sessions. We had 32 in-person sessions and 46 were online. We played a total of 385 hours of this campaign, which was 16 total days of playtime. just to kind of backtrack with the other campaigns, the Coalition's Bane was 51 sessions. 408 hours were played for a total of 17 days. And Unlikely Heroes was 53 sessions with 212 hours played, which was 8 3/4 days. This universe, so far, we have played 182 sessions, 1,005 hours, for a total time played of 41 3/4 days. Deaths. Sybil had 2 deaths.
One of those was self-inflicted.
True. Winnie.
I mean, yeah.
Winnie had 6 deaths and a stone soul on resurrection.
Yeah.
Ulrich had 5 deaths. Bloodmane had 6 deaths and was stone souled on resurrection and raised dead. And Gartok, our MV fucking P, somehow, the guy who eats everybody, which is maybe his key to living, died 0 times.
It's a fucking miracle.
So, like, time played. If he was here the whole time, he would have tried to eat the hags, and those numbers would be very different.
I agree, 100%. All right, and
We
that
fucking did it.
that is the first time I have been able to look at my campaign notes page with literally nothing written on it. So I will turn it over to you guys if you have any questions about anything that will not spoil or alter anything about campaign 4. Now is your time. Now is your time to ask. Okay.
We have so many questions.
All right, roll off. Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I have a lot of questions, so I won't ask all of mine in case somebody else has the same, but one I don't think anybody else will have. Winnie would have tried to find somebody to take over for her grove. Would she have found it like in the Wayward Children where she would have sent them that way, or?
It could have been. That's a question I think you can probably answer better than anybody because you would have had to turn the reins over as the Arc Druid.
I think if it wasn't Yinny's kid, then it probably would have been one of our adopted Wayward Children.
Yeah, and on that note, because we kind of talked about it offline, but yeah, Yin did not have any children. He took a vow of celibacy and dedicated his entire existence to the protection of the Glorian jungle with the Oakfather's Cudgel. So, yeah, it would probably have been one of the up-and-comers, possibly one of the Wayward Children who had a knack for nature magic, who really felt devoted to shepherding in that new generation, eventually taking the reins of the Grove of the Circle as shepherd.
Then another question that I had was, what was your favorite moment or arc in the campaign?
The Coven, the Conclave, and the Crone. Hands down. That was, you know, in all of the content I've written for these campaigns, that I pat myself on the back for that, because it started as me just wanting to fuck with you guys a little bit, and then it developed into something so much more intense, and I have more notes and like actual written content about that arc than anything else I've ever done.
Do we want to do this like a panel, guys, or do you want me to keep going? Because I have several.
He's going.
I mean, if not, you can bounce her. I don't care how you guys do it.
Okay, so then, were there any secrets or plot points about our specific characters that we never uncovered?
No, not really. The only thing that was like really secretive early on was the Sybil being a doppelganger thing, which you guys obviously figured out. Nobody's characters had anything that was hidden. I mean, you guys figured it all out.
I'm gonna jump in after that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was I a doppelganger before the kitchen conversation?
Refresh my memory on the kitchen conversation.
Came upstairs when we were doing our wonderful 8-hour in-persons, and so Sybil's kind of having a freak out. Like, that whole arc's changed how Sybil was that conversation changed her entire trajectory. Because you asked me, is she like planning on bailing? And I went, no, absolutely not. But she's just a person, and these people are fucking terrifying.
Yeah, she's talking about the mental breakdown conversation you guys had in our kitchen in Genoa. Was she a
Oh,
doppelganger prior
oh,
to that?
no, you were not a doppelganger before that.
Got yourself.
Yep, that happened after. I do remember that conversation, though. I was thinking back to, like, did you guys talk in Moondy's kitchen or something? And I was like, oh, no, the
No.
me and you conversation.
actual-
Yes.
I do remember that one, yes. Yep, no, it was after that. That's when, like, the early stages of the Coven, the Conclave, and the Crone started bubbling, and I was like, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna fuck you up.
I know that there's a list for this. What were some things we totally missed that you had prepared?
Give me one moment.
I had a question related to that, so I'm going to add on with a specific focus in were there obvious allies we missed? Because that was one of mine. Like, we almost missed at the end an entire army section there. I know there's more we missed.
There is one more. Actually, there are two more potentials that you guys missed. One were the druids of the oasis in the Naladari desert. They were elementalists. They could have summoned shitloads of elementals to assist you guys. You would have had a full unit of elemental artillery, essentially. And then the pirates did exist. You guys could have potentially enlisted the help of the pirates. They may not have been great on land, but they could definitely have assisted during the sea battle.
Other than the obvious wish spell, did you expect us to make different choices at any point than what we did? Before or after the wish spell?
I was not expecting you guys to make friends with the Lich. I thought that was... I had all sorts of shit scripted for that to turn into an absolute mess. And I thought you guys were going to ransack and take everything in there. That's definitely the big one that I can think of off the top of my head. The Wish definitely threw me for a loop because I gave it to you kind of like jokingly and didn't really expect it to turn into what it turned into.
The
I took your
campaign.
guys' away. Took your guys' away in Boundless Valor. Thanks, Lucy.
Yeah, so that that's the big moment, I think, was the Lich situation. I also didn't necessarily expect you guys to be so hardcore anti-Imperian. I thought it was going to go one of two ways. You guys were either going to try to ally with them and infiltrate them, or go the way you went, and you went the way you went. So, as far as the quests, I'm going to kind of backtrack to the question you asked, the quest lines that you guys missed. So there was a quest line called Escaped Prisoners, where when the Empyrean Reformatory collapsed, the prisoners that were there that survived escaped into the wilds and were going to be causing lots of problems. Yeah, you guys never touched on that, so that kind of went, I guess, belly up, but it's okay. You guys are good now.
Maybe let the dragons handle that.
Mm-hmm. There was a quest line called Rogue Goblinoids that took part in Mungaris and Baldi, Tempuri, Gux, and Banalk. That was focused. It was an early quest line that would have been essentially you guys hunting down warlords of these sects of goblinoids that were kind of going to begin wreaking havoc, but bigger things took precedence. There was also a small quest line all the way down south on the island that you guys took up residence with the Thrycreen that you guys could have delved into. You guys could have gone to that village and either parlayed or annihilated, and you guys stayed the fuck away, which honestly was probably, especially at that point in the campaign, was probably a good idea. Yeah, everything else you guys did.
Awesome. I'll ask, I only have like a couple more. So, what were your favorite moments from us as players?
The biggest one was Bloodmane giving up his patron. I don't know if I was totally expecting that, but the conversation and the dedication as a player to like the greater good of the group, that was amazing. When you guys were hunting the crone, you got so laser focused, that whole battle was just fucking amazing. I enjoyed that for sure. Yeah, that's about where that, I think, kind of ends as far as big moments. I think coming together, especially that first meeting you guys had with all the leaders of the respective villages, that whole session was a lot of fun. Just kind of having all these different personalities, plus you guys discussing like what the hell you were going to do and how you were going to do it, was pretty awesome. And the chase scene when you guys fled Kokoromban, when shit got real, that was pretty hardcore too. That was pretty nasty. Could have gone really, really differently.
And then the last one that I have, which might be on everybody's list, is how would the campaign have gone if we didn't make that wish?
So, the World Breaker was coming back whether you liked it or not. It was not supposed to happen until like probably mid to late game, so like level probably somewhere between like 10 and 15. Which would have greatly reduced the impact it had on the Wildlands. So it would have gone that direction, but you would have also had the Empyrean to contend with at that time as well. Although they would have pretty much been in shambles, but it could have completely altered the way that it went, because you guys may have at that point realized that, yeah, they were big pieces of shit, but they were truly doing, at least early on, what they thought was the best for the Wildlands. By keeping this thing bound and hidden and erasing the memories of everybody of it except for them, in order to protect the plane of existence.
That's it for my questions.
I have a list as well, but I don't want to just immediately dive into mine if someone else has others.
I've got a few. Not a huge exhaustive list, but Octavius. What ended up happening with him, and did he and the Axengol the Blue ever reunite, father and son? Did they ever talk? Did they ever have brunch together?
So Octavius kind of went dormant after all of this happened, because liches are not typically ones to be trusted, and he knew that the good people of the pyramid of Namari Kotepik would probably not be okay with him just living under their pyramid, which was eventually rebuilt. So he fled, created his own sanctum, and there may have been conversations here and there, telepathically or through messages or scrying between him and Thaxengol. They never met though. They never re-met, as that could have also changed the entire dynamic of things when he said, "Oh, my baby, I want to give you lichdom," and then you've got this eternal fucking angry dragon who is ruling over all of these other hundreds of dragons. But Octavius, as far as anyone knows, is still kicking.
What was there anything planned for that underwater city we never made it to? What was that about? How would that have played into the campaign?
So that actually could have provided you guys with another set of allies. That was a massive sea elf colony under the waves of the waters around the Wildlands. I didn't have anything planned, like pre-scripted planned for that, but you guys could have definitely gone there. done some schmoozing. I would have written some things for that, to where, you guys could have assisted them, and then they would have aided you eventually later on. And they would have had a massive fleet of underwater vehicles, kind of like the village of Sea Whip did. But yeah, that was definitely a possibility.
Nice. I guess the last question I have, as it pertains to Bloodmane, my character, what was the Deep Old One's angle? Like, what were they trying to achieve, especially with, like, Mama Mundi as the siren? Like, that was odd and interesting, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask.
So, Mundi to it was really nothing more than a siren. Was she actually a siren? No. It heard her song through you guys when you went and encountered that big nasty spider eye bastard, and fell in love with it. As, a seafaring creature would, want to hear something other than the sound of silence deep under the waves. He really just wanted her as a pet, really, to sing for eternity. And it would, if you would have given her to it, that's what her fate would have been. And its angle, as far as like you were concerned, I mean, it was really just a patron-patronee relationship where it was going to continue to grant you powers and occasionally ask things of you. They would have been pretty mundane in the grand scheme of things, but if you would have continued on with that, once you passed, Bloodmane would have been pulled down into the depths and immortalized in its own realm as one of its successes, one of its very few successes.
Nice. I guess while we're on that topic, it just kind of came to mind, like, Brother Bjorn, man. Bjorn and the Kraken Priest. What ended up happening with those guys?
So, the Kraken Priest recreated its small sect after its cave system was rid of were-rats, because fuck those guys. Nobody likes the Skaven. And Bjorn stood guard by his side for, probably another 50, 60 years before his passing. And the sect of Kraken priests all became patronees of the Kraken and continued its work, though they were never malicious. They were never aggressors. They were very reclusive and very segregated from the rest of society. That island itself never really populated as far as, clan structure or civilized society is concerned. But other creatures took up residence there and never really caused anybody any issue, so.
Yeah, that, thank you for tying up those loose ends kind of rattling around in the old dome here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Do you want to?
Yeah, a lot of my questions have gotten crossed off because they've been asked by other people, which is probably good because I had a list. First, going off of the Emig things, well, the Kurt things, I should say. Question 1, is Cayman still alive?
No.
Okay. What was that? The whole the throat scale and all of that. What?
So refresh my memory about the throat scale.
We got hints of a red dragonborn potentially out in the mountains, and
You're talking about the magic item.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had created a series of magic items based on the original Coalition's Bane campaign. Obviously, you guys had the Foul Blades. There was the throat scale. There was the I can't remember for the life of me the weapon. I think it was a maul. But that was Zarias' Fate. And then there was a couple others that could have been found, including Winnie's set of bagpipes, or not Winnie, excuse me, Brees's set of bagpipes. that were kind of out there and floating around. That was all simply an homage to Campaign 1 and those characters ascending to the 20th level bracket and then being hailed as heroes among the Prime Material. Cayman, and I will share this little bit of information, did flee to the east and become the East King, and lived out his years atop the mountains of Tampori, where when he died, eventually, was frozen in monument, like in essentially a permafrost atop the mountain, kind of dedicating him as, the one who was at the highest point within the Wildlands, therefore making him the King of the East. Self-proclaimed, but, King of the East nonetheless.
As a note, Winnie would have made sure that we got to go see that, because that was something Emig talked about very early on. So in our travels, she would suggest it.
And
Constantly.
it would have been difficult to get there, but it would have been doable. And you guys could have easily flown to the top after probably a few years of hunting stories and information and lore, eventually led you to the top. Where atop this massive mountain where there is no ice and snow, there is a permafrost block with the East King frozen in place.
Badass. Okay. When Bloodmane died most recently, I made a dumb decision to reach out to his patron, and then potentially, thankfully, he then gave up his warlocky stuff. If he hadn't done that, would anything have come of that?
Yeah, so let me get my notes on that one real quick. Hold on. Okay, so here are kind of the possible outcomes in rescuing Mama Mundi. So Bloodmane's intention, they were going to talk about Mama Mundi. She doesn't understand what the whole siren thing meant, but she would agree if she absolutely had to go to the seaside. Like if it was, hey, the world is going to end or you have to do this, she would have eventually decided to sacrifice herself, but she was very against it in the now, which is why you decided to go the way you did. If you took her to the sea, she would again have gone reluctantly, and as she entered the depths of the water, a kraken tentacle would have risen up and taken her below the surface, kind of throwing her from the frying pan to the fire. And Bloodmane would have been able to keep all of his abilities, all of his warlock levels, and all of his powers. If he failed to do that and absolutely refused it, then he would have simply lost. If that new moon would have come and gone, his tome would have melted into a puddle of water. He would have retained his warlock levels and HP, but he would have lost all of his abilities. Full stop. It's also possible he would have been locked into those levels. He did succeed in something, and that was giving up the pact that he had, which is why things played out the way that they played out.
It was such a cool story to watch.
And to be clear, for the rest of her days, Mama Mundi never stepped foot in the ocean. She was always very, very afraid of what might happen. So,
I have my joking question, because I know you can't give any answers to this, which was question number 1. What the fuck do you mean the World Breaker was just a pawn? That was my first one. My
I feel like we got that answer.
Yeah. Dislike. a really tiny question is, what ever happened to the Green Menace? Where the fuck was he? Was he alive? Like, where's my provider of all things poison?
Yeah, so that may or may not be something that appears in future campaigns, but what I can tell you is that the Green Menace traveled from village to village and peddled his wares, his legal wares, to those who wanted legal wares, and to those who knew of him or the stories of him, was willing to peddle things that were, maybe outside of prying eyes. The main island chain that he stuck to was the one with Stillwater, Mandalari, Zagmo, Shumbeak, but eventually he did branch outwards, typically spending more time with pirates than normal civilized folk.
Definitely probably could have found him. Damn it. Okay. And then my last big questions are, what NPCs were supposed to be more important, but we ignored them, which you've kind of covered for plot lines, but I didn't know if you had any specific people you were expecting us to, like, latch onto. And then this is also an NPC question, is, were there groups working with the World Breaker in secret, or groups working against us, besides, like, the obvious ones we know about? For the cult.
Yeah, so the cult was pretty exclusive to the World Breaker. Their whole story was that they were buried many years ago and rose up only when that thing rose up. They grew very rapidly, and then they, in turn, enlisted very easily persuadable groups of individuals, i.e. goblinoids, gnolls, ogres, things like that. As far as anybody else working against you guys, the Empyrean was definitely working against you while they lasted, but they were the biggest antagonist outside of the Cult of the Worldbreaker.
I have one to kind of follow up on that. Just because you reminded me, what would have happened to us if Mylar didn't save us? Like, if we hadn't made that connection with him when we were in our trial, how would that have gone differently if Mylar didn't jump in and save us?
To be honest, you guys would have probably been executed.
That would have just been the end?
Well, it may not have been the end. There's a possibility somebody would have resurrected you, realizing that you were destined for this. I did not write that far because I anticipated Mylar saving you. However, if it would have not gone that direction, if you guys wouldn't have made that connection, odds are you would have probably been executed, and your bodies, they wouldn't have been destroyed. They would have, been set to a proper burial, as the Empyrean was, they were pieces of shit, but they did things still technically according to law. And you guys would have probably been brought back under a whole new guise, like, we need to get you the fuck out of here. Who would have done that? It's tough to say.
Maybe the Oasis Druid should just reincarnate us all so we came back as different races.
Yeah, you guys all come back as gnomes. Gnome party.
Ulrich was a dwarf once.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. Might be.
Magic be finicky like that.
Would have been our team bringing us back, like, I don't know why, but I get to feel like I'm going to be doing this a lot.
Yeah. As far as the question about NPCs and those who may have been bigger influences on you guys, let's see. There was a handful of NPCs up in Empyrean territory. So there was Thorian Blackheart, who oversaw Nazguldrick. You guys heard a little bit about him at some point. There was a, let's see. Yeah, he was probably the primary contact. He was a drow sorcerer that oversaw the Empyrean while it was there. His right hand was named Faldurin Ghostwick, and she was a Fire Genasi cleric, was kind of his right hand person, and she was an oracle, which is how she was trying to keep tabs on you guys when it was found out that you were potentially up to no good. There was an NPC you guys never actually met, but when I was in the early stages of creating the campaign, I actually did a stream. This was like before we even started. There was an NPC named Vakal in the Mungari tribe who was a Vulpine, the only Vulpine NPC I've ever made, and they were a potter. They were an artisan. That's just somebody you guys happen to never have met because of the way things went. Let's see. You guys met pretty much everybody else. In the Empyrean territory, there was a couple others that were just notable. There was a Goliath, who was the torture master of the Empyrean Reformatory. This Goliath was a Shek, which Bloodmane knows a bit about. And then over in the Empyrean Magi Tower, Gildahar Moonbow was the Archmage of that area. I believe you heard a little bit about him at some point as well. He was a drow. And then there was a handful of lower Empyrean territory people like Ashford, Delvandi, that you guys just never really had a chance to get to and meet, but those would have been potential allies against the Empyrean. Looking over all these NPCs, I had 75 NPCs, like pre-scripted NPCs that were like main and major people. Most of them are mayors or notable people within the tribes. There's a shitload of people in Zlaneshi, but you guys met most of them. You met everybody in the Oasis. That was Nicolette Agave. Yeah, I think that's about it. Actually, you know what? You guys could have had more of a connection with Amelia Lightborn, who was the Azamar cleric at the Pyramid of Namari Kotepik. She was their leader. You guys met her a couple of times when you went and did some of Izaki's quest line. And yeah, she kind of pittered out as a contact, though, after Izaki left, so... Yeah, I think that's about it. And then you guys didn't really get a chance to do a whole lot of delving into the Western tribes because you just never made it to that point before the Worldbreaker showed up. But there was probably a good dozen NPCs that were between those respective 5 tribes that you could have had some contact with. That you didn't have contact with when you guys had your big first meeting because they all were there.
I think those were my questions.
I have a couple on NPCs.
Sure.
So first off, I would like to know what happened to our favorite halfling merchant, Barduccio, and his amazing companion.
Buleta.
So, Barduccio and Baleta, they stayed in the grove of the Circle of the Shepherd, and for at least some time after the World Breaker was bound, and eventually was asked for passage out of the circle and into the Feywild. He became very, very curious about what goods he could procure among people of a different plane of existence. And they eventually went on to making regular trips into the Feywild exclusively and back to the Circle of the Shepherd to plane shift back to the Prime Material to sell exotic goods. So he eventually became a procurement specialist of otherworldly goods between the two planes of existence.
It's amazing. I like to believe that Bullet, when in the Feywild, is an archfey.
She may not have went in as an archfey, but she may have definitely come out as an archfey.
Perfect. Another one I want to know about is Porka in the Ring. Did anything ever happen to her? Did they find a way to get her out?
Run that past me again. You said it was who in the ring?
Porka in I think that was the Wish Ring, Jin Wing or something like that. Ring like that
fair.
For the creepy.
Yinny's-
Oh,
Yinny's
Yinny's person.
That's true. So if Winnie would have done whatever she could to get her out of there. That would have been a big part of the end too. Even if it was a matter of she wouldn't use a wish spell, but she would just try her best to figure out a way to get her out of there.
I would
That
say.
would be funny if you used a wish spell.
Oh God, the irony of a wish spell and a ring of wishes. So yeah, I actually had kind of forgotten about her, but I would like to think that over time, especially as the list was growing of people that notable people you guys wanted to have resurrected, eventually her name would have appeared on the list, and you guys would have brought that ring to Ezekiel and Mylar's School of Arcane Arts and Sciences, where they would have undergone, better part of a decade's worth of research on how to free an individual who is trapped. Essentially, her entire form was trapped inside of this thing, and eventually she would have been released. And she would have taken back to the Galorian jungle to join the Oakfather's Cudgel.
Awesome. Thank you, Lucy, for that.
Amazing. And the Wildlands is the worst for it, and I love it.
She was pretty awesome.
So,
She was.
I loved her. She was one of my favorite NPCs. Another person I wanted to ask about is, no, not a person. This is a more recent thing. This is in the fight with the World Breaker. So, how did its deflection mechanic work? If Gortok did shoot a lightning arrow, would that have just bounced back at me, or was there a chance?
So if you would have hit it with the lightning arrow, there would have been a chance that it ricocheted. Because it fires it doesn't fire as a lightning bolt, right? It fires as just a burst of electricity.
Yeah, it turns the arrow into a lightning arrow, shoots it, and then explodes.
Yeah, so I mean, it could, because it was still infused with magic, there was a chance that it would have bounced off of it, but as far as it being redirected back at you, there were very specific parameters, including line spells, which is why the lightning bolt had such a profound effect. And there was only a 5% chance of that happening, so you guys got really fucking unlucky there. I think during that fight I had Candace come and look at it, because I was like, this is fucked.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could have bounced off of it, but if it would have hit it, bypassed that deflection mechanic and hit it, it would have still dealt all the damage.
Okay, perfect. Now I'm slightly sad I listened to Sybil, but it happened. Another thing is, and this is Gartok specific and completely hypothetical. Let's say a piece of the World Breaker got left behind.
Oh God!
And ended up in Gartok's clutches.
Fly over here, Lucy. Actually, just call your dad back in the room and tell him to hit you a few more times, please.
So
Probably would.
if Gartok would have gotten his hands on a chunk of flesh from the World Breaker and consumed it, as I assume that's where you're going with that, you would have been plagued with horrific nightmares from all points in history from the first happening up until now, specifically surrounding events that related directly to the first happening, the second happening, when the avatars arrived, and then the world breaker rising up. It would have been focused around those three major events, and it would have been nightmares of annihilation across the Wildlands and Truman Shard.
Glad it stayed mostly in one piece and sent back mostly a dead piece. So that, I'm glad that happened. Last question I have is that hobgoblin in in the first hag fight when we first met in the forest next to Kiru. I believe you mentioned something about it one time, but I wanted to make sure. Was that going to get a dragon if we waited further, or like a giant dinosaur mount? Or you said something about that? The hobgoblin leader.
Right. So yeah, actually, let me pull that card up really quick because I actually still have that. So not a dragon, but I want to make sure that I'm thinking of the right thing. So bear with me here.
Thought you were talking about the one I poisoned for a minute.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, okay, so that one, so if that guy would have come back, because I remember what you're talking about, because you guys fought the main contingent. The leader of that group was away. And ironically enough, because I had kind of forgotten about it until now, its mount was the king of the jungle. It was riding the dire T-Rex. And it would have been on it, and it would have been an absolute fucking, probably massacre, especially at that level. But you guys did well. And then I guess the irony afterwards is that you went back, a decade later and fucking murdered it anyway. So and there was no sign of the chieftain, of the hobgoblin chieftain. So obviously that relationship didn't work out.
Awesome. That's it for me.
All right. So I kind of threw no character history at you when I started this because I wanted to kind of just not know going in. I kind of wanted to be surprised, which I was, very much so. But I want to kind of know where, before Zaki left, where the whole Moon and Talon thing was going to go, because that was very much... Then I also had a mental derangement for 2 years about protecting the Talon that I couldn't protect anymore because he was gone, so that was fun.
So, being that Azaki was from the Pyramid of Namari Kotepik and had so much celestial energy infused in his being, you giving me absolutely nothing but saying you were a divine soul kind of forced me to rethink, like, well, what the hell are divine souls in this world? Because we've never had them in any of the campaigns. So the way that obviously I've created it is that if you're a divine soul sorcerer, you die, you are brought back to your god if your death was just, and you are reincarnated over and over and over until you find this select purpose. The select purpose initially with you and Azaki is that Azaki was also going to have been of a deeply rooted celestial blood and potentially would have opened the door to him to become at least multi-class divine soul sorcerer in his own right. And that would have bound you two together throughout the remainder of the campaign as, essentially like blood brothers. That was more of like me wanting to have you guys constantly looking out for each other, constantly working well together, finding things that meshed well within your own skill sets to create these magnificent possibilities. Because, especially if he did decide he was going to pick up any Divine Soul Sorcerer, that opened the doors for now 2 arcane magic users, not necessarily healers, but to just fucking unload. Plus he had all of his fucking monk levels, so that would have been wild too. Anyways, the very brass tacks of it was he and you had so much tie in celestial blood that storyline was going to eventually intertwine to a point where it was, no, you guys are essentially cut from the same cloth. And possibly, I hadn't written that far because Izaki left at that point, but possibly even came from the same chord of existence, meaning both of you under Bahamut and or under Heskin, which is Bahamut's champion, and kind of separated for a time, maybe even unleashing like a, hey, you guys have actually known each other for centuries, you just don't remember those past lives, but you would have eventually picked up those pieces and seen that you were cut from the same cloth or cut from the same cord.
Was there anything about that whole storyline that I missed, like I didn't pick up on, or?
No, it was. So here's the problem: because Izaki left, it fucked up what I wanted to plan, and I didn't plan too far ahead at that time. So I don't think you missed anything. I think you guys, in my opinion, were on the right track towards beginning to discover. Like, I'd say probably within 5 or 6 sessions, you guys would have started to pick up the fact that, when one is hurt, one might feel it. When one is feeling something, the other might feel it. And that may have evolved into, especially during praying and, coming upon temples of Bahamut and doing prayers there, you may have started to see flashes of your lives before, whereas you saw them solo, you may have seen them together with Izaki, kind of showing that, alluding to the fact that you guys were of this same ilk. But no, you nailed it pretty fucking spot on. And you always ask the right questions, which is easy for me.
Glad I could make it easy. Last one I've got, because all of mine were just based off the history, because I figured everyone else had everything else. How far back did Ulrich go? Like, how far back in history has, he been remade?
That's a very good question. So the way that it was written was that you were conceived. Your soul was conceived during the time of the first happening. So that brings us... Give me a moment. Let me pull up my timeline. Okay, so year 0 was called the Eminent Dawn, where the gods created the primal mass and begin to form the prime material. Flash forward to 1750 EE, which is early era, and that is when the first happening kicked off. That was the dawn of the gods creating divine souls in order to impact existence on the prime material with their influence, for better or worse, because there's good gods and there's bad gods, and some that lie right in the middle, but they tend to lean one way or the other. So it was right around the first happening, 1750 EE, when your first iteration would have come to fruition, and your soul would not have been allowed to die until things were completed. What I will say moving forward to this day and age, and up until when campaign 4 starts, which is in 4253 PFH, post first happening, Ulrich's soul is still not quite done, and there are iterations still happening.
Interesting. Okay, that's what I had.
All right. Do I have anything else from anybody? Anything at all? No pressure.
Quick question. Who would win in a fight, this party or the Coalition's Bane?
Oh boy.
Weren't they all level 20?
They were.
Let's give him some scaries.
That's true, and they were pretty decked out, but you guys have some resourcefulness that is cohesion based.
I was just about to say there was once a time that Breezus was getting murdered in a hallway and Fowl just stood there. And he could have used his fucking boots of spider climbing to go save her, but instead just stood there. And we had stuff like that happen a lot.
Yeah, the first campaign definitely they had some ins and outs. I'll tell you what. I'm just curious now. I'm gonna look back at not the character sheets, but just the character files. Okay, so that was Breezus, Fal, Heskin. Well, yeah, it's tough too because you guys ended. It was Breezus, Fal, Heskin, and Cayman. If it was versus you 5, you guys have one more than they did. So to be totally honest, I'd say that you guys probably would have the upper hand. And I'm not speaking for any of your characters. However, I have a sneaking suspicion that if that fight began to go completely tits up, Ulrich would cast a wish spell and fucking wink those assholes out of existence for the sake of he would have just been like, I don't care what the repercussions are, fuck these guys. And that's the one thing you guys have that they didn't. They had no arcane casters. They had a rogue, a fighter, a cleric, and a bard. So there were no wish capabilities. Ulrich could have just been like, we're down to 3v4 and goodbye. Whatever that would have meant.
Plus, their rogues down his blades, like. It's gonna
Yeah. Now, what I will say about that team is that their rogue was an assassin. No, he was not. He was a master thief, actually. He was not an assassin. So, yeah, you guys would have probably had the one up.
And he had Witch Bolt, which I only ever saw him use one time that entire campaign.
He did have
The first
Witch
time
Bolt.
he showed up.
He did have Witch Bolt, yeah.
I was always so scared of any situation where I thought about using Wish. Like, there was so many times in combat, I'm like, no.
Good. That's exactly how that should go.
Now, if the original group would have had all of the PCs that had joined them initially, they had Droven, Fenton. Fenton was a divinationist wizard. Not Fenton. Ivan was. Fenton was a druid. There was Droven, who was a fighter paladin. Then you guys would have probably been waffle stomped. And I know how Droven and Ivan worked together, and they would have probably immediately targeted Ulrich and two-rounded him.
They would have annihilated him.
Yeah, it would have been fucking brutal, and especially having all of the portents from Ivan, that would have been a tough fight. But yeah, as it stood 4v5, I think you guys would have had it.
Fenton sounds like it would have been a cool name.
Fenton was a pretty cool name. Fenton was a pretty cool character, to be fair.
Fenton was a pretty cool character.
We actually wound up scripting a shitload of content after you guys left that campaign about what happened, and it was heartbreaking and intense.
I cried a lot during that session.
There was it was fun though. It was good. It was very good.
Breezus was not happy about being helpless in that situation.
Yeah. All right.
Do you have any questions for us?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is wow. Fuck. Actually, I do have a question. I may have a couple. Okay, Bloodmane. Why the fuck didn't you transform into a wereshark in that final battle?
It was more of a personal choice to try to end it. Kind of, he had the gift, and he was, if he needed to for that, the temporary hit points, he would have. But everything that he wanted to do, action-wise, was pretty much planned out, and it was like, all right, it's time to start doing fucking work as soon as possible. So the option was there. It certainly wasn't forgotten. But I also think that it was almost poetic that he ended it like as himself, like the original barbarian, as a barbarian, um, before he was gifted, if you will, with that fun little lycanthropy deal.
That's
I
totally
was
fair.
collecting so much fucking silver for your ass that all got disintegrated.
I got rid
had
of so much.
thousands.
It was all part of the grand plan.
All wrote.
Okay, no, that's cool. That definitely answers that. As far as twists and turns and how things kind of panned out, and this is not me as a DM looking for any sort of pat on the back or anything like that, but do you guys feel satisfied with how things have gone throughout the campaign? Do you guys feel satiated story-wise? Do you feel full up from story content? Like, what are your thoughts overall as far as like the campaign from start to finish? Like anything that you guys were like, nah, that was really fucking stupid, or that I don't like how that went, story-wise. Yeah, go ahead, Sybil.
It's less story-wise. Yes, I am looking at my digital notes in my binder and my scrolled post-it notes, and just I love, love, love seeing how you connect all of the things, and realizing the amount of times where it was literally a like, wait a second, flip back like 30 pages of notes, no joke. That fucker. I had that conscious thought a few times. Mechanic wise, the mass battle change there from the very first one, the kind of the roughness of even the sea battle, and then like that very end. That end one was so much fun and so engaging and so streamlined that I'd been dreading it a little bit, and then coming into it, it went so well. That was probably the biggest notable mechanic like evolution that was really cool.
Good,
Also
good.
seeing the Grove tiers, I would have loved to see more of that, but we didn't exactly get to just go and chill in the Feywild a bunch.
Yeah, and there was a lot more written for, building essentially strongholds. I've been loosely using the Strongholds and Followers book, very loose. I mean, when I say very loosely, I mean very loosely. I took the concept from the creator and kind of built my own thing, and that includes the combat system, because when we did the very first combat, now, all the way back in Campaign 1, there was a military combat, and it was a fucking mess, but I was going off of nothing. That book wasn't even out. It was just me trying to create something cool, and it was a little sloggy. The second one was me utilizing that book and still thinking afterwards things need to change to streamline how it works. The naval battle, that was its own totally separate, like that was just me trying to figure out how the hell to make it fun. I felt like that was a bit of a fucking slog. And ship combat will, if it ever comes to fruition in the future, will definitely need to be altered a little bit. But I'm glad that you guys liked that final fight, because even between that one and the one you guys did at Orcus is Chosen, there could have been a lot more capabilities to, there was a lot more potential for you guys to engage the World Breakers armies before that engagement and get more experience out of it. And that would have also come with, not everything being immune to fucking fleeing the field and being broken. But I also agree that final fight felt very, it was very streamlined, very to the point, and everyone seemed like they got it. Like it was just simplified to a point where it was like, shit, this is actually working. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed that.
It was easier to talk through what needed to happen as well. And over the past several months, we have had a running group chat of strategies and plans, and it was, that worked. It worked very, very well. That was definitely notable.
Very cool.
I have something that didn't sit right, but Lucy had something first.
Mine's a bit longer if you want to to yours.
I'm sure mine is pretty quick. The only thing that didn't sit right with me, and I can't remember if it was a bad dice roll or a misunderstanding of your explanation, it was the Woodwodes and the Giants, because Winnie was convinced that the Woodwodes had been made into the house because of the description that was given. And then Azaki jumped in when she explained that, and that's how the fight started. But that never sat right with me because we all got, punished, I say, by having our alignment shift and everything. And I think that because if Winnie knew that the Woodwards were okay, she never would have jumped in on that fight. But because of whatever, I really can't remember if it was a bad roll or if it was the way it was described, and that's how I perceived it. But that still, like, I was just looking at my notebook, and it said, oh god, I have to find it because I was laughing. I was like, wow, I was a little bitter. Entered the tower after finding out that they murdered giants for no reason. That's the first part of my notes.
Yeah, so, and I remember that very particularly. What I'll say about that, let me open up my Thrall's Haven notes here, because I'm sure I took notes on it. But yeah, that was never meant to turn into the shit show that it did.
Yeah, on either side, I think.
No, exactly, on either side. I mean, the major issue there was that I wasn't even given a chance as a DM to say, okay, let me lay this out for you a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
I had told you there is a completely unarmed, unarmored woman in this pond, and Azaki was like, I shoot her in the fucking head. And I was like, oh my god. Well, I'm not going to tell the player, no, you
Right.
guys do whatever the hell you want. And I get, and it did look like that, right? It looked like there was some Woodwode issues potentially with that hut. And maybe there was, but I don't think it warranted anybody in the party, Azaki or anybody who was there at the time, from just fucking firing off shots. I mean, and then you have to take into consideration this woman who's sitting there knowing that there are children inside, right? Is going to defend to the fucking death. And then dad realized mom is being killed. He knows the kids are in the hut. Fuck. Okay, now I have to do everything in my power to kill these people, otherwise they're going to destroy us. It was a matter of survival. I mean, and they fought to the fucking death. They would have killed every single one of you if they could have, but at that point even, they didn't stand a fucking chance. Especially her. She had no armor, no weapons, no nothing. And you guys were on her like, flies on shit.
And I do blame Azaki for that, because he did jump into it. Granted, he did it on Winnie's behalf, because Winnie was like, oh my god, I think that's the Woodwodes. But that's just one thing that was like, we couldn't recover from. There was nothing we could do. I even, for a time, carried a finger or something of each of the parents so that we could potentially resurrect them, and it never came to fruition. So, that's my one.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this here. You guys did a lot of shit on that island.
It's like the first third of the entire campaign was on that island.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because you guys couldn't go back to the mainland, not anytime soon. So yeah, I've got the Thrycreen thing here, which you guys never did. Just to be clear, there was about 95 Thrycreen in that village, and they were hostile currently, but I had a chart that was hostile, semi-hostile, neutral, semi-friendly, and friendly. And a progression of months and then up to a year that would have required your guys' time, trade, dedication to making peace with them. That could have gained them as allies. They could have actually possibly assisted you guys, now that I'm thinking about it, in that end fight. Let's see, there was a random encounter table which you guys experienced with the Gorillion, and the other thing on that island. So just since I'm looking at it, the small island with the giant tree and the myconid that was to the east of Thrall's Haven. I know you guys had talked a few times like, hey, let's go there and take a look at that. And you guys were like, no, fuck that. Those mushroom people are going to dominate us and we're going to become food. We're not doing that. Fuck that. So the center of that tree was actually a portal to the Feywild. Yep. There was a portal to the Feywild there, and then one other place that you guys did not discover on that island was actually, it was a chasm that went about 150 feet down to a murky pool that was currently, at the time, was guarded by a stone golem that would activate anytime somebody approaches within, any living creature approaches within 60 feet. What it was there protecting was a portal to the Underdark, both in and out. So yeah, that island held both options for you guys to get to the Feywild and the Underdark, which in this D&D universe, the portal or the Underdark and the Feywild sit just directly below and directly above where the prime material is, which is why it's so easy to bounce between the two. But those were the only two portals on this plane of not on this plane of existence, on this section of the world.
Ooh, if I had melded with stone, would I have died?
If you would have melded with
Instead
stone,
of
would have you
scrying,
died?
if I would have melded instead.
Yeah, you wouldn't have made it. You wouldn't have made it all the way down. It dragged it down to the center of the prime material, and I was thinking 8 hours, and I'm like, how long would it take to go? Because you don't move fast.
Right.
You move at a crawl through that
Yeah.
stone. You would have probably gotten halfway there. I would assume cast it again, gotten halfway there, cast it again, and in between the castings, it's up for a second. So you
Right.
would have just.
Yeah, because I need at least 6 seconds to be able to cast it. Alright, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at this now. Yeah, you guys didn't miss a whole lot else. You guys did a shitload on that island.
I have one more highlight thing, and I know
Sure.
it's because you said that you wrote so much content for it. But the learning about the hags and being able to piece that together. At one point I went through my binder and I had folded the corner of every page that had hag notes in it because we were trying to connect all of the things, and that was just very, very it was very cool to be able to see and connect, and also fuck the hags. Just no, screw them. They can die horrifically every time.
I like utilizing hags in everything that I do, just because they're such a fun fucking monster. But I think after writing that, I think I'm gonna tap out for a little while on hags. I think they may have learned their lesson. And to be fair, you guys put their numbers down pretty dramatically. So, but yeah, thank you. That was a fun quest line.
Right.
All
but
hags.
What about space hags?
Stop it. Shut up, Lucy.
I guess we'll have to see.
Stop it, Lucy.
In space,
Move.
nobody can hear you get hagged.
Oh, he's not wrong.
All hags moving forward do not stand anywhere near a chasm, just in case.
Yeah.
They have a guidebook now for what to do.
Best cantrips used though.
How to handle humanoids.
Emig, the amount of fucking times you got caught by snares or sleep spells at the start of combat, were you going for a personal record there?
Yeah, personal record of being fucking frustrated, and I think I achieved my goal.
Yeah, let me say,
So
as
cool to watch.
somebody who plays a fighter in a campaign, the getting hit with shit that CCs you is the most goddamn aggravating fucking thing in the world. It drives me insane. It just happened last week, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll see you 30 minutes when my fucking turn comes back around and see if I save against this bullshit. Lucy, did you have something?
Yeah. So first off, I love your NPCs. I love them all. My favorites are always your savage races, like Torka is always, always in my memory. You can ask Candace. I talked to her and Kat, literally being like, okay, I said before I wanted Gartok to be a bit more romantic than what I usually am, just be a bit out what I usually do. And I was like, okay, it's Torka. It needs to be Torka. She's the greatest NPC ever. But I think, I don't know if this counts, but aside from NPCs, I like doing character what ifs. One of my favorite what ifs was, what if Gartok was a bit smarter and could actually learn dragon, how to raise dragons from Octavius.
Yeah, and I mean, the hypothetical kind of speaks for itself. If he was a little bit smarter and if he was a little bit more capable in how he went about things, I mean, the sky's the fucking limit. Yeah, I think that Octavius was on friendly enough terms with you guys after everything was said and done to have offered to at least give you his knowledge of what he knew as a dragon tamer, easily. Yeah, that could have come to fruition. Now, it would have taken many years. It would have probably been post game content, as you don't just suddenly learn. I mean, you'd have to find a dragon first, right, and then learn how to tame it. And as most of the dragons in the Wildlands were under Daxingol the Blue's control, convincing him to just be like, hey, you mind parting with one of those wormlings just so I can figure it out. Don't know if that would have come to fruition. However, it was definitely possible.
Yeah, it's absolutely cool. Speaking of Octavia, I just remembered something. We freed, I think it was a troll. Ghost troll.
The spirit troll? Yeah.
Yeah. What happened to that guy? Because he told us that was like a brutal slaughter.
Let me pull my notes open. Hold on. In the quest line named the Dragon Tamer. Okay. Yeah. Let's see here. So, the troll. Oh, actually, that reminds me. When you guys were down there, you avoided a fight with a fucking Death Knight, FYI. That was in.
Yeah, we did. Very intentionally too.
Yeah, there was a chamber called the Sentry.
We fucking knew.
Yeah, the tomb with 6 stone latches, each with a sigil inscribed upon it. Yeah, you guys said fuck that.
That was the place we had our first fight, Emig.
Mm-hmm.
About that damn troll.
Yay! I hate to say I told you so.
You told us something.
That's when you learned not to ask Gartok for advice, because he just said, do what you want.
I think we already knew that, but that solidified it.
I'm reading through
Okay.
some of the tower stuff right now, and I just have a little side note that, Bloodmane, I can't fucking read this shit. Just with no other context, because it goes into combat notes immediately after. I don't have any idea. It goes, yeah, it's just, and then my next note after that is crossed out. It says 2 times vials of Pegasus blood, and then an arrow that says tainted underlined like 4 times. And then the next note after that is fate does not often forgive transgressions. Like, what the fuck happened that day?
We flailed so hard in that tower. We were just like grasping at anything we could to try and make that work.
We failed straight to the top, baby. Number
We
one.
sure did.
And I got flayed in that, as I have a Mind Flayers note as well. That is my only note for the 29th of Mujam.
So as far as the troll is concerned, so the spirit of the troll, of the long dead troll, didn't know much about its prior life, but it does remember being on the cusp of death when Octavius brought it back to the tomb. Octavius promised the troll eternal life if he underwent a minor operation to help him, Octavius, learn about its regenerative properties. What happened was, as it naturally aged and became fearful of death, Octavius offered the troll eternal life if it agreed to lend its regenerative properties to Octavius in order to keep his form solidified, because he couldn't leave the sanctity of his own tomb in order to find out regenerative crystals and potions to keep his lich form active. So that thing was there binding Octavius together essentially for, another century at a time. And that is why Octavius was so upset when when the idea of it even being let go was proposed, because now he's got to go branch out and fucking do all this stuff himself, which then draws attention to, the locals.
Fair enough. I think that's also about it for me. I don't have many other, what ifs. It's just, because Gartog's an idiot, and I made him that way purposely. Because it's really fun to play on occasion.
All right. Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you guys. As far as I can think, I'm glad you guys enjoyed yourselves. So we'll go ahead and we'll get ready to go ahead and call this a closed chapter in this campaign series. There is one more campaign that I'm going to write. One more campaign for now. I think with what I'm doing and tying the campaigns together in some way, shape, or form is about at its end. The bulk of the campaign, Echoes of the Fallen Ascendant, is already written. I will be running that as a Sunday night in the Sunday night slot, which is what we started with Unlikely Heroes, and now Candace is doing Boundless Valor. So when she's finished with that, we'll give it a little bit of a breather, and then we'll pick right back up into that. So I know we've talked about it before. There's no pressure whatsoever. But people who've played in full campaigns before, who finish out campaigns, always get, front loaded. So if anybody who has not already voiced their opinion is interested in playing that, you guys will have the first dibs on that content. I'm trying to bring 5, maybe even 6 people along, to just see what the fuck happens. And yeah, we'll kind of go from there. It'll be taking place quite a whiles after this one. I think it's about 1,000 years. Let's see, 4253, and it is currently. Let's see. Unlikely Heroes happened in 2952. 3852 is the World Breaker. Yeah, so 3852 to 4253. So it's quite a distance off in the future. And essentially what has happened is dark space faring peoples have arrived on the prime material, and space travel is not deep space travel, dark space travel is not like the norm, but it is becoming more popular, specifically on the island of Trinity, which is an unexplored region of the world at this point, as far as campaigns are concerned. So that's where we'll be picking up when we start that here in probably the next couple of months. So if anybody's interested, just shoot me a message, let me know. If you're not, there's absolutely no pressure whatsoever. But yeah, it's been an absolute fucking joy to DM this campaign for you guys. I really appreciate everybody for sticking it out and for being as flexible as you guys all have with Saturday day games, Friday night games, and then back when we were in person, running hard for 8 hours a day once a month, because I know that gets taxing, but it was a lot of fun. So we'll go ahead and close this chapter for now. And
Thanks
thank
for
you, my
running
friends.
Yes, thanks for running a great game.
Absolutely.
How much time do you want us to give you before we start pestering you with questions about future character things?
Well, people have already been doing that for the last 6 months. I have got shitloads of people who have reached out, wanted in, and then decided they didn't want in, and changed characters 2 or 3 times in the process. And so we'll see what happens. I'll take anything you've got. If you are completely solidified in what character you want, who you're playing, let's start having that discussion. I'll probably be doing more like deep-rooted character dives, a month out or so, once we kind of have that established. But I mean, for right now, I know your concept. I've got a lot. I've got a whole fucking document already set up. I actually think I have a folder set up for you.
I have not dramatically changed that. I've just deep dived more on my own time into who she could be.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm not suddenly being like surprise.
No, no.
I've never seen a god like or a temple in my life. Not doing that.
That'd be pretty hardcore, though.
I'm gonna just say, if this character ends up with the bag of holding, you guys are gonna start finding random shit in there constantly. Because this will be the 4th campaign in a row.
Surprise, pipe bomb.
Oh, God, what the fuck?
Why do you have Kira's bag?
Yeah, no shit. Oh, fuck. Yeah, but, you know, any character concept stuff, obviously feel free to send over, and we'll go there. Oh, actually, that reminds me, too. Kat, I was just dicking around in that campaign folder the other day. You will need to remake that character because you selected the 2024 Paladin content.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, obviously, we're not playing for a while. Just wanted to make sure that you knew, so you weren't jumping in like, oh wow, where'd I get all these weird skills? Well, those
I
are.
did not realize I had clicked that. I think I'd made
It's
it
okay.
like right after some of the stupid changes.
Yeah, and they front load all that shit, so you have to look at the 2024 content before you can go to the other stuff. So it's, and trust me, I know, I hate it.
Fine, I will delete my paladin and remake her, I guess.
You might be able to just go back in and change class and just drop it down to the new Paladin.
Yeah, but I want to make sure I didn't accidentally click 2024 content anywhere else.
True. Fair
So-
enough. Okay. All right, guys.
I'll do that.
I again, I appreciate y'all. I won't drag this out any more than it has to be. But yeah, thank you again, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night if anybody's going to be hanging out for Boundless Valor, Canis's campaign, which is ramping up right now, and
A regular stream tonight, too.
and then regular stream tonight, and then yeah, we'll hopefully, fingers crossed, see some of you guys, if not all of you, in the future campaign. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be weird. It's going to be really fucking weird. I say about every campaign. It's not a one-shot.
It's not a one-shot.
No, this is how you start, is it? Where you say it's a one shot and then it's not. That's how you get them.
This is how we lure you in every time. Oh, there's the cow! Oh, tell me that's just on your desk all the time. I forgot about the fucking cows, man.
Yeah, it's just on my desk. Like,
It's
it's
amazing.
been here since I moved. It's it's actually one of the first things I set up. That and the picture you had done for the group. That's the first. Actually, it's the only art I've hung up from all my art. For my old home, it's the only one I hung up. So
That's after you moved?
yeah, when I moved to Michigan, I didn't put any. Oh, ha ha ha.
Ah, cow joked you. No, I know what you're saying.
It would behoove me to pay more attention.
Yeah. Now, one thing I will say too. Now, obviously, Candace and I, just really quick before we go, Candace and I, obviously, we got a lot going on, tied up financially because we're with our plan to move. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. But I am in the early stages of talking to Kevin Goins to commission a portrait for all of the characters who ended the campaign. So if I reach out in the future for just details, like aesthetic details, just bear with me. But I do intend on making that a reality because we do it for all the campaigns. So, all right, guys, great campaign. I hope to see you all sooner than later.
So
Take care,
much
everyone.
fun. You.
It's been good, guys.
For the last time, we're closing out of this this particular Roll20.
I know. All right, guys, we'll see you soon.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, and for those of you who are hanging out here in chat still, we are going to officially deactivate the Wildlands campaign in D&D Beyond. And it has been deactivated. So, with that being said, we have concluded the Wildlands. Thank you to those of you who hung out with us. We definitely appreciate you guys. We are going to go ahead and find someone to raid out to really quick. It looks like we got Apperjax, Toth, JC. We typically send the love to Apperjax on Saturday midday games because he's usually just doing canon stuff. Yep, he's playing Sea of Thieves. All right, yeah, we'll send the love over to Apperjax real quick, and then we'll see you guys tonight. We've got a stream from 7 to 10 Eastern, and then we'll be back tomorrow night for Boundless Valor. And then in probably a couple of months here, depending on how things go with Boundless Valor, we'll see you guys for Echoes of the Fallen Ascendant, Campaign 4. Thank you all for hanging out. We'll see you soon.
in the center would be like either my logo or like or Reaper's probably.
That would be